In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
Oh, yeah, it is perfect, folks. It's Tuesday night. It's 9 p.m. We're chopping up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. My name is Tony Dunn. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast. It's the longest running one. That's right, including even the team's podcast. We just don't quit talking about the Carolina Panthers because we hang out with you guys every week. You can call into the show. The number is 252-228-5098. Smash the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the show. It's a very American thing to do, to plug ourselves. I'm on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. Please tell me in the chat room that all the audio is beautiful. This mug is beautiful. And I know who's beautiful. Cody Lashney, my co-host. Welcome back.
Oh, I love it when you try and butter me up, Tony Dunn. Look, man, no one butters me up more than these fantastic Panther fans that we have joining us every Tuesday night. Man, we have so much to talk about. It feels like our head coach and new general manager have taken some shots at a certain quarterback who shall yet to be named. We have Senior Bowl stuff to talk about. And like I said, man, we're going to do it with the best Panther fans in all of YouTube. ATX19, Kevin Boshoven, Blake Bettis, Tin Tizzy, Underground West, Joey the Blind Panther Esquivel, Nirvash, Chase Ebert, Tony Dunn. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
Tonight, we got a good show for you. We got a lot to talk about, surprisingly, with the lack of news. It seems like the Carolina Panthers are no longer in the running for Deshaun Watson, if they ever were. But since we've joined you last week, we've gotten some pressers from Scott Fitterer, our new GM. The coaches are at the Senior Bowl. And questions are arising about the strategy, the philosophy of how this team is going forward. And we've got Corbin Smith tonight joining us in about 15 minutes, a little under 15 minutes. He's the host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast, Seahawk at Seahawk Maven on SI.com. And he's going to come and help us unpack the Scott Fitterer hire and what this means for us. We got some good audio from the press conference. And I got to tell you is that there really wasn't very much substance to the press conferences, but the little that there was had to make Cody Lashney happy when it came to talking about the traits of a quarterback. Since we've kind of circled back from last week, Cody, are you higher or lower on the hire?
I am much higher on this hire. Listen, he really said
I'm stoned on this hire.
You're what? I mean, look, yeah, dude, I'm high as can be, bro. Listen, I really like everything that you said. I really made it a point to, just go into it with an open mind and listen to the man and what he had to say. And granted, you can tell he was a little bit nervous. You know, who wouldn't be? That's really your coming out party to the national NFL media. But I thought he was tremendous, and he said a lot of things that I really did like, and it should kind of, I feel, inform us about what the Panthers are going to do this offseason. Mm-hmm. He said that, and I really like this approach, this mindset, that whenever you're picking inside, the top 15 to 16 picks, they expect all those players to be cornerstone players, game-changing, franchise-altering players that you're going to be able to build and formulate your team around. He said after that, when you're picking in the back half of the first round, it doesn't really matter too much the kind of talent you're talking about from late first round to early second round. And I like that because that means he understands maximizing value and getting, the bang for your buck, so to say. It also made me feel more comfortable that the Panthers weren't going to be looking to trade down and, in fact, would have an opportunity to trade up for a quarterback, which is something that he even mentioned also. So as someone who was kind of agnostic to the Scott Fitterer hire, everything he has said up to this point makes me feel good about his credentials and what he's going to bring to the table as our general manager.
All right, we've got CK, the master of streams, the master gamer in the house, and the movie voice trailer man. What's up, CK?
Yes, just hanging out, man. Just interesting.
Living the dream.
I'm trying to avoid
if I dare say.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid it, but you bring it up. So I'm living the dream. Obviously we could talk a little bit about what happened this past week and how one man came to a team that was one of the worst teams, and he's a quarterback, and all of a sudden they were a Super Bowl caliber team.
Wow.
We
can definitely discuss that.
We can discuss the fact that that's what it took for them to actually make it to the Super Bowl. Why do people think that we don't need a quarterback at this point in time to make it there is beyond me. So that's something I think we can talk a little more about.
All right, we got the Bat Daddy 52, the nerd of podcasts, the man of podcasts, the man of many podcasts. What's up, Greg?
Not a whole lot, man. How y'all doing? Feels like forever since I got to talk to y'all.
I know.
Kind of out of the loop for the last
whole week off.
Yeah.
Gosh. Are you rested?
I think so, man. I think I'm okay. Yeah, got my pint glass full of water here that I'm gonna chug the whole show. And but no, just hearing this news, I was like Cody. I didn't know anything about this GM hire. Hearing the speech is promising. Kind of makes me feel like there might be a light at the end of the tunnel. I just hope it's not a train.
Oh, yeah. So, I hope we're on the train.
Yeah.
All right. The number's 252-228-5098. You can be part of the show. Call in, leave a message. We'll get you on the broadcast. And don't forget, we've got, I guess I would say, what would I say? We got Corbin Smith coming. That's what I was going to say. We got Corbin Smith coming to help us do this, talk about the Scott Fitterer stuff. But let's go ahead and talk about this. Why did they hire Scott Fitterer? Here is Tepper on making the decision. And you can't hear it.
The development that Carroll's had with some of his players, having to, deal with later round, later picks. Also, just the way the structure there, a bit of a flat structure, something we're trying to do in Carolina, a little bit more open, in the apartments on all sides, inside the building. So where he came from and what he's done there, it was just such a great match and idea for us. And just the personality of the individual, also really well regarded as an evaluator out there. Inside the building in Seattle, sort of the person that was described as a calming force between Schneider and Carroll, who could get emotional sometimes, and the guy that calmed down the room, so to speak. But as I said, more than that, just coming from where he came from and dealing with the Carroll and the coach out there and the type of structure that we want to improve on, that was probably the main reasons for the choice.
All right, so Tepper references a couple of things. The three being, one is the experience with the transition from a college coach to a guy that's going into the pros. Pete Carroll. I don't know if it's exactly the best analogy, because Pete Carroll did have some NFL experience as a head coach way earlier, but here is that he's been with a guy who is accustomed to the college world and is trying to find his way in the pros, and he's been there through that whole experience. Number two, he talked about creating a new structure in Carolina. And the three was analytic. Oh, is that his experience in scouting along with the analytics based kind of concept. My question to you guys is, what does he mean by the flat structure? And I've been trying to figure this out, and I guess the only thing I could come to is that instead of it being a top-down owner, GM, coach model, that is more parallel departments that then meet at a lower level together, right? Like this flat, like what do you guys gather from that, Cody? What do you think? What is a flat organizational structure?
I kind of think it's more of a collaboration. I mean, listen, like it or not, David Tepper is going to be much more involved with this Panther organization than Jerry Richardson was. We've already seen it. He's already kind of put away his day job to have more of a role in the Panthers organization. So I think having two guys in a coach and GM that he can trust and knows that they have their own aspect of the team covered, that you have a GM that is a good evaluator, that knows how to spot talent and knows how to get them on the football team, manage the salary cap, do all the things that we've been wanting Marty Hurney to do at a high level forever, but then also have a CEO on the football field in Matt Rhule, who is building a culture here in Carolina, who clearly values being a young, progressive, athletic football team, wanting to do a lot of new things on offense and defense. So in my mind, David Tepper kind of saw these two as his own version of Pete Carroll and John Snyder. And that was kind of who I said earlier in the season, we should hope Matt Rhule, we should hope that he turns out to be similar to a Mike Tomlin or a Pete Carroll, a culture builder. And I think that Fitterer, according to David Tepper, thinks that Fitterer and Matt Rhule are going to work well together. So this flat model is, like you said, unlike the owner gives marching orders to the general manager and then down to the coach. I really do think they want to have a collaborative experience between the three decision makers here in Carolina, which is those three: David Tepper, Matt Rhule, and now Scott Fitterer. And I think they were looking for a guy that fit that trio well.
Yeah. You heard some of those kind of suggestions being made when they were asked about this was Scott Fowler. Scott Fowler tries to be he's like, we all have our opinions of all of Charlotte media in our own way. So Scott Fowler comes in there and did kind of ask, I guess, a semi-tough question. It was like, how's the decision making going to be made between Rhule and Fitterer? And he asked Tepper this. And he asked Tepper how much he was going to be involved, and he was ultimately said this is that Rhule, would have a lot of choice on who plays on Sunday, what the 53 is going to be, but that he doesn't have the time to be watching the practice squads of other teams, to be, looking at what guy got cut or what opportunity is going to be there on the side. He's busy coaching the team. And that's going to be the GM's going to have more say so on the roster outside of the football team in a way, if that makes sense. So guys, this flat organizational structure doesn't seem, is this revolutionary? I don't know if it's revolutionary, but it does seem to be more corporate. It's like a corporate-based model of how football is going to work rather than the old school football-based model where the coach is going to have control over, the old ball coach has control over everything.
I'm happy that it is that way. I mean, I don't know if either of you two guys want to jump in on this, but I'm happy that it looks like the Panthers are finally starting to become aware of better business practices. There is that part of me that is kind of worried that David Tepper is kind of putting too much emphasis on this analytical bent that is going on, because there isn't an interview that he gives anymore where he doesn't mention analytics as a part of his hiring process. When it came to Matt Rhule, when it came to now Fitterer, apparently that was the rift between Marty Hurney and Matt Rhule was, kind of analytics based. So I fear that David Tepper doesn't lend on it too strong. But you're certainly right, though. It does look like we're trying to build a modern football organization. And that makes me happy because right now I've seen Matt Rhule and Scott Fitterer speak in depth about the quarterback position and how important that is to us going forward. That says to me they know specifically how important this offseason is for the Carolina Panthers. We have to nail this draft. We have to nail this round of free agency, or else we run a risk of being kind of irrelevant for a while if we don't capitalize.
Greg, CK, any quick thoughts on the structure model going forward? And then our guest, Corbin Smith, with the Locked On Seahawks podcast, is going to be joining us any second. Well, he's here, but as soon as you guys put your thoughts in.
CK, go ahead if you want to, bud.
No, you're good. You're good.
I was just going to say, I really have no idea what a flat model is. Like, no, but what Cody's saying makes a ton of sense. We all are saying it. Like, that's obviously it's what you want is good cohesion between, the three structures. That's the way government's supposed to work. And when things go well like that, you should have success. I don't want to rely solely on analytics either, because analytics do work. But once again, things work if you do them so many times over and over. Eventually, yes, they're going to work. It doesn't mean they're going to work every single time. So
yeah, it's like playing blackjack by the book.
Right.
It works.
Yeah, you're going to win, but you're not going to win every time. Yeah,
for it to work, there is gray matter and gray material in gray area. All right.
Wait, can I say one more thing about Scott Fitterer before we go forward? And it's a very small thing, but I noticed it and I liked it. Dude, that suit and tie combo that my man was wearing at the press conference with the Panthers pendant, dude, that was a fucking beautiful touch. I liked it. I remember noting, dude, my man looks sharp as hell, and I appreciated it. So shout out to probably his wife who dressed him, I would imagine. But
yeah, did you hear the story about when he came in for the interview?
No, I heard about the Zoom meeting that they did, but I didn't.
Yeah, when he came in, he said he flew into Charlotte and he had a suit that apparently, because as he was a scout, and he said it was a bit too fit, like it was a little too tight. So once he got into Charlotte, he had to actually go to a tailor and find a suit, and that's like it was quite interesting, because it doesn't seem like he's someone who was wearing a suit very often prior to this.
Yeah, you got to use Cam Newton's guy. All right, let's go ahead and let's get to Corbin Smith. Corbin at Seahawks Maven, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast. Thanks for joining the C3 Panthers podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We brought you on because obviously you have an extensive background with the Seattle Seahawks, a team that we used to hate a lot more, but I guess since we haven't been very good over the last couple of years in some ways, that our hatred for Seahawks has dissipated. Those 15 to 12 games stung those 3 years in a row when the Carolina Panthers battled it back and forth, and it seemed like we could never get on the right side of Russell Wilson. But we brought you in here because Scott Fitterer is our new GM. Who is he, and tell us why we should be happy?
So I haven't actually spoken to him in person, but I know a lot of people within the organization that have. And the first thing I can tell you is he supposedly has an incredible sense of humor. And a couple of the people that I've talked to that have worked with him when he's been scouting at like the Senior Bowl and different events like that said one of the best parts about being at those events was being able to see what he and Kirchner and some of the other guys were joking about while they were watching players on the field and stuff. So he's supposed to have a really funny personality. I also can tell you that you are getting a guy that was instrumental in Seattle becoming a perennial playoff team. Obviously, John Schneider gets a lot of the credit. They've got some other scouts that have obviously been involved. Ed Dobbs, the guy that was a big part of it. Now he's in Indianapolis. He was getting looked at for some GM jobs. Kirchner's been looked at. So they have some other key cogs, but Kirchner played a huge role when you look back at those drafts in 2010, 2011, 2012 that really built this team to be a consistent winner. He was heavily involved in that process. And actually, he was heavily involved in their process getting to their first Super Bowl in 2005, which, not to put salt in the wound, but after they beat the Panthers in that championship game, that first Super Bowl team for Seattle, he was involved in scouting some of the players that they drafted in the 3 or 4 years prior to that. He was with the organization for 19 years. So he left an incredible imprint. It's a massive loss for Seattle's front office.
Wow. Tell us how involved was he? So you said he's played this big role, I think. And when I asked that question, I think of this as I've heard people say, look, he's instrumental in the Richard Sherman pick. He was instrumental in Russell Wilson. We've even heard murmurs that he said that they intentionally didn't interview Russell Wilson in that year to not let on that they were interested in him. right? So tell us a little bit. How does a guy, personnel director, former scout, how does a guy make his bones in the Seattle organization?
Well, I think the first thing is loyalty. And obviously he has shown that by being with the organization since all the way back in 2001. But I mean, I think John Schneider and the GMs they had before John Schneider arrived, you just look at the Seahawks organization. And really, this goes back to Paul Allen, you know, when he took over as the owner of the Seahawks and really saved them from relocating. You know, he was always kind of a hands-off owner. But in 2009, he realized Jim Mora and the system they had in place there after just one season, he realized this is not working. But the scouting staff had several guys there that they had maintained from earlier in the decade. And he was one of those guys who had his hands heavily on scouting all those players on the ground. Clearly, he has an incredible eye for talent when you look at some of the players they brought in. And that's why he was able to elevate quickly once he got into a position where he was VP of player personnel and stuff like that. He was able to move up the ladder pretty quickly over the last 5-6 years because he had done such a nice job of being on the ground and being able to scout those guys. I mentioned being at the Senior Bowl. He put in the legwork to get to where he's at right now. So again, I don't know how this is going to work out for him in Carolina because he's never been a general manager, but I think he is the perfect pairing with Matt Rhule, a guy that I was a huge fan of Carolina picking him up last year. I love what he did at Baylor and Temple before that, and I love the draft picks the Panthers had last year. And so if Scott Fitterer is able to nail a lot of their picks this year and they're able to take advantage of some of the free agent options out there, maybe the quarterback position, Deshaun Watson, anyone, it certainly sets them up to be a team that could move up into the NFC South very quickly. I think he's the perfect guy for this job. And honestly, I was surprised he wasn't hired by somebody the last couple of years.
So that actually kind of leads into a question that I had for you. How long have you guys known really, or how long have you felt that it was imminent that Scott Fitterer would be leaving the Seahawks organization? Because, I know, there's a bunch of different names of people that are in the front office that, play into, who you're going to draft, who you're going to sign in free agency. A lot of decision makers are involved in that. Specifically when it came to, say, Russell Wilson, did you know how much involvement he had in bringing Russell to Seattle? Because the Panthers are at a very weird situation where, man, we need a franchise quarterback. And he's coming in quite literally at the moment where we're now trying to get one. So, how much does he have an eye for the quarterback position? And can you hone in on maybe specific players that without a shadow of a doubt that he had a hand in bringing them to Seattle?
So I can't, unfortunately, guys, I can't tell you how much he had his hand in on Russell Wilson because there have been so many smoke screens over the years with Russell Wilson. Like, oh, we had no interest in him, or, oh, he was the guy we wanted all along. You know how it goes with quarterback positions, especially somebody like Russell Wilson that had so many red flags going into the draft, specifically the height aspect. But I can tell you a couple of players that he was heavily involved with. 2010, Cam Chancellor. 5th round pick. We all know how good Bam Bam was in that secondary before his career-ending injury. And another player that I think he was heavily involved with, based on what I've been told, Malcolm Smith, who ended up being the Super Bowl MVP for the Seahawks in 2013. He was a 7th rounder that the Seahawks got out of USC. And so those are two names that I know he was heavily involved with. And honestly, those 2010 and 2011 classes, even more so than 2012, he had a very large imprint on because he was so heavily involved with scouting these players with his own eyes and being at the facilities and being involved with the Senior Bowl and all that stuff. And so Cam Chancellor and Malcolm Smith are the two guys that really stand out to me. And you mentioned that first part of the question, how long have the Seahawks known? If you would ask John Schneider about this right now, he would tell you 4 or 5 years ago they were preparing a contingency plan for him to be gone. I mean, he's been on the radar as a GM candidate for the last 2 or 3 years, if not longer. He has certainly been a rising star for one of those vacancies, and he was coming up short. And this year he was much more selective about it. There were some other teams that I've been told had interest in interviewing him, But ultimately, he liked the Carolina Panthers situation. As I mentioned, I can see why. He wants to work with Matt Rhule, and he loves the young talent. I mean, I'm big on a couple of the draft picks they made. Jeremy Chin, when I was a high school coach in Indianapolis, I coached against him. And so I'm not surprised at all that he went out and had such a good rookie season. He looks at that young talent, the draft picks they've got available, the fact that he can maybe pick his own quarterback right now. Some GM candidates might be scared about that. I think Scott Fitterer is probably excited to have that opportunity in his first GM role.
Well, let's screw Scott Fitterer. Tell us about this Jeremy Chin in high school.
So I coached I was a running back coach, actually, Franklin Central High School in Indianapolis. And so I had the opportunity, and what's funny is like we all knew how good of a player he was. But if you would have told me then that Jeremy Chin's going to be a day 2 selection in the NFL, I would have kind of scoffed at you, because I'll throw just a few other names out there I coached against. David Bell at Purdue right now that played at Warren Central. I think he had 200-something receiving yards against our team, the game that we played against him. He's going to be an absolute stud in the NFL when he comes out. There's been a couple of running backs that were in the Indianapolis area that have moved quickly into D1 roles. And so we played against a lot of really good players. Indianapolis is an underrated ground for finding high school talent. And so Chin was obviously a fantastic athlete, but he was kind of one of those guys that kind of went under the radar a little bit. And I know that he wanted to go to Indiana or one of the bigger schools in state. The opportunity wasn't there. So Southern Illinois came calling, and the rest is history. But certainly he was a guy that was a ball hawk on the field, and he was really impressive. I just don't know that I ever would have thought.
Did he play defense in high school?
I believe so. Yeah, I think he played both sides of the football, if I remember correctly. So that was the first year that I coached high school football, actually. And I'm just thinking about some of the other star players. Like I said, David Bell was the best guy I've coached against. And so there were a few offensive linemen that got D1 looks as well. But he is the guy that I always will kind of have nightmares for my coaching career going up against, just because we put triple coverage on him and he'd sky up one-handed catch. And at that point, you just want to put your clipboard down and say, all right, get on the bus, boys. So Chin was an exciting player, though. There's no question about it.
That's awesome. The Carolina Panthers are slated to pick 8. We will argue all day long about how we should be picking 3rd, but we're not going to do that at this moment because we are picking 8. Here is Scott Fitterer discussing the kind of history of trading back and what you do in this case. And we'll get your
Scott,
thoughts.
Welcome to Charlotte. I wanted to ask you about your drafting philosophy in Seattle. Obviously, there was a lot of trading down in the first round. Was that a franchise philosophy? Is that something you plan to bring to Carolina? And then I know that you indicated that you like to watch a lot of concerts on YouTube. Is that all Pearl Jam concerts, or do you like to do a mix of different bands?
In terms of the concerts, we'll listen to just about everything. Country, Pearl Jam, whatever it is. As long as it's a good concert, we'll watch it. As far as the draft.
Hold on. I want to pause it right there and just say this, is that he watches concerts on YouTube like he watches players on the scouting trail. He's like, if they play football, we'll watch it. If it's a concert, I'll watch it. All right, here he is on the draft stream.
In Seattle, we've historically picked, mid-20s, late 20s over the last 10 years. And when you look at the draft, when you build the board, there's a certain level of player that stops about 16, 17, or 18. So once we're picking at 25, we know we're not going to get those, what we consider players that are going to come in, be impact players. We don't see a big difference between 25 and 40 at that point. But we can back, acquire picks, and still get the same caliber of player that fits our team. This year, it's going to be a little bit different. We're picking at 8 this year. And so we're in that mix of players. So that gives us the opportunity. We can move up, we can move back. It gives us a lot of flexibility in the draft. And it'll be a new adventure and one that I'm looking forward to. But that's really, if you're not in that top part of the draft, we're going to try to.
A little Freudian slip when he said this.
It's going to be a little bit different.
We're picking at 8. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about how we picked in Seattle and their kind of draft history and moving back, and what you think that Scott Fitterer may have learned that he can bring to Carolina that he kind of alluded to in those comments.
Well, as he pointed out, the Seahawks have consistently drafted at the end of the first round. And I think when you look at most drafts, you have your top 10, top 15 players that are head and shoulders above everybody else. And then you start to see things level out a little bit. And so John Schneider has always been a GM that's viewed quantity over quality in the draft. Yeah, obviously, he wants to get as many good players to get his hands on. And so that has been his philosophy. And they've had a lot of success doing that. Now, you could look at their first picks and say, I'm not sure why you picked that particular player when they could have got the guy a round or two later. They've had a few first rounders that have been head scratchers, but they've always been able to recoup extra picks. And that's where they find those players like Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor and stuff. So I do think he's going to carry over some of those principles because he knows the type of talent that Seattle was able to get just by having those extra chances. I always look at the draft as a big dartboard. He wants to get as many opportunities to throw darts as he can so that he can hopefully nail on a few of those late round prospects. And so I think you'll carry that over. The difference here, though, you look at the few times Seattle had early draft picks. They had 2 first rounders in 2010. They got Russell Okung and they got Earl Thomas. They weren't trading back to the end of the first round in that draft because they had a chance to get premier talent, top of the line talent. And so I wouldn't expect Scott Fitterer is going to come in and just suddenly start trading down a bunch with that top 10 pick. Could he do some moving to recoup some picks if there's a couple players they want? Sure, but I would anticipate because of the draft position, it's going to be a lot different strategy than you've typically seen John Schneider employ just because of the draft positioning.
So let me kind of go on that a little bit and run with that. So, you know, having Russell Wilson and knowing you have a franchise quarterback, I imagine it just makes the job so much easier because you know you're set at the most important position. Well, Scott Fitterer is walking into, yes, a top 10 pick, but we also need a quarterback at a time when not only do a bunch of teams ahead of us in the draft also need that quarterback, but you have now all these rumors, like you alluded to earlier. Deshaun Watson is trying to force his way out of Houston, which is insane. Matthew Stafford, I just saw on Twitter just now, has already put up his Michigan home. So, you know, Panther fans are really wondering what we're going to do at this position. My question to you is, knowing that we have the 8th pick, knowing that we would have to probably trade something to be able to move up or go get another established player, how aggressive do you think Scott is reasonably going to be in his first year as a general manager when you don't have one of the most important positions?
So that's really the ticking time bomb, isn't it? When you're looking at the Seahawks, I mean, before they landed Russell Wilson, everybody remembers they gave that big contract to Matt Flynn, and we all know how that ended up playing out. And so
he's my idol, bro. That
dude's
my idol.
I think is it Andrew Brandt that says you're an expert in the business of football? You could say that Matt Flynn certainly was that with the money that he ended up making off the teams that he played for. But going back to the question here, most of the time that Scott Fitterer was in Seattle, they had a franchise quarterback. When he first came on as a scout in 2001, that's when Matt Hasselbeck was first starting to really turn the corner in his development, and he was there all the way through 2010. Seneca Wallace was not a bad backup that they ended up drafting as well, and Fitterer was on the staff there too. And then, of course, Russell Wilson. But they haven't had a lot of opportunities in Seattle where they've needed to draft somebody because Matt Hasselbeck worked out, got him to a Super Bowl. Obviously, Russell Wilson worked out. They just had a couple lean years in between those two quarterbacks. And so I don't really have anything to base off of what to expect from Fitterer in this instance because he hasn't been in a situation like this aside from maybe 2012, and the Seahawks still were not in a position to go up and get an Andrew Luck or a Robert Griffin III, one of those top quarterbacks. They ended up getting Russell Wilson, which worked out incredibly well for them. But as far as aggressiveness goes, even though John Schneider most of the time is traded down, if Scott Fitterer is anything like Schneider in this situation, you can guarantee he's going to be picking up the phone. If there's a quarterback that falls a couple picks in front of them, he's not going to be afraid to pick up the phone and try to do some maneuvering to move up in this instance too, because of how important that quarterback position is. And I will tell you this right now, this is just my personal opinion, knowing what I know about Fitterer, the people that I've talked to about him in the past. I won't be surprised if he's already put in a call to the Houston Texans. They might have hung up the phone because they can't handle reality. Their quarterback wants to leave, but I guarantee that he's called about him, and I'm sure he's looked at a couple of the other quarterbacks that are potentially going to be available on the market here. I don't expect somebody like Aaron Rodgers to really be available, but certainly Matt Stafford could be a guy that they look at worst as a bridge quarterback that they could bring in. Maybe a guy that could still have 5 or 6 good seasons left in him. You got some weapons at his disposal in Carolina. So I anticipate he's going to keep all those options open. This is just going to be new ground for him because the Seahawks had a franchise QB most of the time that he was with them.
Yeah. There are 2 fundamental kind of pillars that David Tepper, our owner, seemingly has based his decision on our GM on. And that is, one is maybe 3, but one is the use of analytics. And we've heard, as analytics has not like crept into the NFL talk, it's been around for a while, right? Analytics, it's like, oh, statistics, holy crap, it's been around since we invented math. But so, as we continue, it becomes a bigger buzz and kind of incorporated into the football world more and more. Seattle has been a team that a lot of people have referenced, particularly Carolina Panther fans have referenced over the past decades, like leading the charge in this kind of new age look at football decisions. Do you know anything about, obviously, but like, what is Seattle's analytical edge, and how does Scott Fitterer maybe pivot that to Carolina?
So this is going to be an interesting response to this question, but as a Seahawks beat writer, I can tell you what the fans think about Seattle's analytics approach. They think they're extremely behind the times.
Oh, wow.
And here's why I'm going to say that. This is generally the argument that gets thrown. This year, they did let Russ cook. In the first half, man, he was just cooking like crazy. The second half, his restaurant got shut down just like every other restaurant in COVID times. Defensively, were just shutting them down. But prior to that point, this was a very old school offensive attack. And it sounds like Pete Carroll wants to lean more towards that in 2021, getting back to running the ball a little bit more. They've always been a team that likes to do that. They've been more conservative on 4th downs than a lot of other teams are out there. And so at least from the football field standpoint, there's been a lot of people bickering. Why can't we get with the times? There's not enough emphasis on analytics. The front office, on the other hand, I think that you could make an argument that they're a bit more adept at looking at stuff like that. But at the same time, I don't know that I would call them front runners either. They always have done things just differently than everybody else. And that's why they look at players like, say, LJ Collier, who they picked in the first round a couple years ago. A lot of people had him as a second, early 3rd round pick. They picked him in the first. There was just something about him with his story, his grit, and things like that they were looking at. They just are programmed differently. I don't know how much of that actually falls in line with analytics or them just beating to the drum the way they want to. But I think that a lot of Seahawks fans would tell you that this organization isn't necessarily leading the charge with analytics like maybe some outside organizations might think.
Yeah, I think Tepper wants it, when I think of it, even more so how they're trying to integrate is more into the front office personnel side than even just every down. We think of what statistically works in that case. The one thing is Tepper's a former hedge fund manager, and I kind of think that he wants a chart guy. If you guys know anything about or a little bit about stock trading, there are people that assess fundamentals of businesses, like how sound is this business, what's the outlook of the business, what's their balance sheet. That's kind of a fundamentals guy. Then there is the chart guy, which is like, hey, they hit their 52-week high, they got the second dip. That's what I see him wanting from the analytics. The other pillar that David Tepper seemingly based his discussion on was a guy that can negotiate, manage the salary cap. What's Seattle's kind of situation with that over the past a little while, and what are your thoughts on your salary cap, and maybe we can glean something that for the Carolina Panthers?
So unlike the last question where I kind of rebuffed the idea that analytics is an area that the Seahawks really excel, I think managing the cap has been an area that they've absolutely been stellar at throughout the John Schneider era. And a lot of that falls, John Schneider always mentions the name Matt Thomas. He's the one that is really in charge of organizing all the numbers and crunching everything. But they have typically done a really good job, especially in their Legion of Boom years where they had all those players they had to pay. they were doing a really good job of paying a lot of those defensive players and finding ways to work all those defensive contracts. And then you have Russell Wilson. Once he's no longer on his rookie deal, that changed the game completely. But they were able to seamlessly go into that era where they're paying a quarterback top flight money. And so I don't know how much Fitterer was involved in that process, but he's certainly been around, and he has seen an organization that has consistently known how to operate the salary cap well. And so I would anticipate that will be a strength for him in this position.
Shout out to Mossy Man 789. Moss, thanks for the super chat. Love your show and favor to all of you. You guys hit Scott up with the last questions, and we'll let him go enjoy his new home.
CK, you want to go?
Yeah, I have a really basic question, and this is almost something to take us back to high school. But in 5 years, the Panthers are, because of Scott Fitterer, knowing what you know about our team up to this point, the weapons we do have, Matt Rhule, Joe Brady. In 5 years, the Panthers will be good, great, or average, or just really bad.
I think it'll be one of the best teams in the NFC. I'm not afraid to say that. Here's why I say that. I mentioned all the young talent that Carolina has brought in. Last year's draft, again, I was a huge fan of them getting Brown, Chin, some of the other players. Gross Matos, I still think is going to be a really good player. He was kind of raw coming into the league, but I think he's a kid once the light switch comes on. He was one of my defensive end prospects that I thought the Seahawks should take a close look at with their first-round pick. And so I think he's got a lot of upside. He's got an incredible backstory, too, coming into the NFL. So I look at the young players that they've got. The biggest question mark is, can you get the quarterback position filled? Whether that means you go out and you bring in somebody like Deshaun Watson, or you draft somebody. I really like BYU's quarterback. Maybe he's a guy that's available close to pick 8, and they're able to maneuver and go up and get it. And Zach Wilson's a player that I think is going to have a long, successful career in this league. But I look at Carolina's youth. I look at the draft picks they've got. They've got a lot of pieces on the roster there. And I look at the rest of the division around them. Tampa Bay is going to be good. Tom Brady, we don't know how much longer he's going to play, but eventually they're going to have to figure out the quarterback position again. Atlanta has been a burning dumpster fire for how many years? They might have to make a change at quarterback. And New Orleans, their cap situation, Drew Brees is going to retire, and they're still going to be $1 billion over the cap. And so I just look at the state of that division. This is a division that's right for the Panthers if they just make the right decisions and they're able to get a few key players in free agency too. I like Matt Rhule a lot. I think he's a program builder. I think Scott Fitterer, as I've said a couple times, has a great chance to be really darn good as a general manager. And so there's a lot of reasons for optimism. I think 5 years from now, Carolina could be one of the best teams in the NFC. I truly believe that.
Man, whatever you're smoking on, I want some of it, bro. Let me have it. I'll go ahead and get out with my question. Let Greg and Tony finish up with them. What's to do with Seattle, man? Why aren't I felt like this year and every year really, they start out on fire and they look like world beaters. And Russell Wilson always leads the discussion for MVP, and he's always the name. Will it be the year that Russell wins MVP? And then for some reason, they just hit this cliff. I find it very similar to the Steelers this year a little bit. Maybe not as bad, but what does the future hold for the Seahawks?
Which is weird, real quick. That's the opposite of what they used to be. Like, they used to be second half of the season, they were destroying everyone.
They won 6 of their last 7 regular season games. They finished strong.
They were 12-4, man. You wouldn't even believe it. When you ask about a person from the East Coast, the right coast, about Seattle, and you say, oh, they had an up and down year. They're 12-4.
I look at this team and I'm still scratching my head a little bit, just trying to figure out what happened on offense. And I'm a big film guy. And so analytics are something I'm trying to get caught up with, but I'd much rather just watch the tape and try to see what I can glean from it with my coaching background. But I think that this was I think Brian Schottenheimer was made a scapegoat. And I don't think he was the biggest problem for their offense in the second half. Because when I was watching film, it's just like, what is going on with Russell Wilson? He's got a tight end running wide open on a corner route, and he ends up just doing a pump fake and then eating the football. Like, he just suddenly was gun shy. He didn't want to throw the ball. And you saw it some in their playoff game against the Rams too. You had receivers open. There were a couple plays where the guy was open, he threw it to him, and he was just way off. And so I was writing articles about at the end of the season, Russell Wilson's got to be held accountable for a lot of the struggles here. Pete Carroll needs to be held accountable because he made it clear that he wanted them to have a more conservative approach because Wilson had a couple games he threw 4 interceptions in those 2 games. And that really seemed to be the turning point. And I think they overcompensated. It impacted Russell Wilson's performance. And then they were getting 2 deep safety looks, and they were acting like it was something that was just created yesterday. And they couldn't figure it out. And so I'm just sitting on the sidelines like, cover 2. You can beat cover 2. Why aren't you figuring out how to do it? And again, going back looking at the film, it looked like there were plays there that were drawn up to beat cover 2, and they just weren't executing. So for Seahawks fans, it's extremely frustrating. They're tired of the one and dones or going 2 and done because they have a franchise quarterback that when he's at his best is a top 3 signal caller in this league. And yet they haven't been back to the NFC Championship game now in 6+ seasons. And he's going to be 33 next year. The window is going to start closing. And so I think next year they have a chance to still be a team that can get back to the Super Bowl. But I also think next year could be a season if things don't go quite as planned with their cap situation and some of the all-in moves they've made, like trading for Jamal Adams, that suddenly you could be in a situation where you have to reset the roster a little bit going into 2022. So this is a huge offseason for John Schneider, Pete Carroll and company, figuring out who's going to be the offensive coordinator, all their moving parts on their roster and not having much cap space or draft capital to work with. And so they have a chance to still be a contender. They also have a chance to slip back in a division that is going to still be incredible next year. The 49ers will be healthier. They might have a different quarterback. The Rams are still going to be really good. And of course, the Cardinals, they could be a team that go out and win 10+ games next year with the talent they've got. So yeah, it's a different situation than the NFC South, where it feels like some of those teams could be fading in the near future. NFC West is just like a gauntlet.
Yeah. I had a few questions for you. We've pretty much answered them for the most part. One, okay, I don't know anything about Fitterer coming in. From what I've heard from you, from what I've heard from the speech, his press conference, everything, I'm confident in him being a good GM. But I've seen this movie before. So I'm the wet blanket, and I'll ask, are there any negatives about him that stand out to you other than being inexperienced at that position?
That honestly would be the biggest thing for me is the lack of experience. And I have to wonder how he's going to handle free agency and different stuff like that, I don't know how much he was involved in that process. Now, obviously teams have different scouts that are involved with watching other teams so they can start preparing for free agency. But I don't know how heavily involved he was in that process. I know that you're getting a really good draft guy that really knows how to scout players. He understands where to find value. My big question is going to be, is he going to be able to make the couple splashes? And they don't need to go out and get a huge name, but quality free agent signings that are at a decent rate that aren't going to bust your salary cap. Is he going to be able to do that? I don't know, because I don't know how heavily he is involved in that. And the Seahawks for a long time have not been big players in free agency. Early in Schneider's tenure, they were, because they had gaps to fill. But generally, they've looked at second and third tier players. I'm curious to see how Fitterer handles that. That, to me, is the biggest question mark when you're looking at a personnel standpoint.
Okay.
Who you got in the Super Bowl?
For the first time in like 7 years, I didn't get either one of the championship games right. So who knows if I have any chance of getting – I really thought the Bills could give the Chiefs a battle, and unfortunately it just didn't happen. But and I thought Green Bay was going to hold on, but who should doubt Tom Brady at this point? To me, the Buccaneers, it's weird saying this because the Chiefs look unbeatable, but it just seems like the Buccaneers are a team of destiny right now. They just won 3 straight road games to get to the Super Bowl. And Tom Brady, there's just something about the dude. I mean, I didn't think there was anything he could add to his legacy, but this
they got a home game. Exactly. The first is this the first ever?
Yeah,
it's never happened before. So, to me, I look at Tampa Bay and the players they have on defense, and I also look at the offensive line. Eric Fisher's not going to be in this game, Achilles injury. They were already without Mitchell Schwartz, both tackles, and you're going against Shaquille Barrett Jason Pierre-Paul and some of the nasty pass rushers that the Buccaneers have. As crazy as it sounds, I think Tampa Bay wins this game.
Don't worry, Mike Remmers to the rescue.
That's right. My only thing is I think Tampa Bay's a really, really good team. I don't like people giving Brady all the credit for winning that game because he did not play a great game. When you throw three interceptions and pass for 78 yards in the second half, you shouldn't win that game. I mean, I agree. It happens. It happens sometimes, but Tom Brady didn't win that game for them. Green Bay lost it, and the defense played really, really well.
Yeah, are you plays they needed to? So yeah, I agree. Got all the credit, but
yeah.
Are you a Senior Bowl guy, Corbin?
So I'm paying attention to it. Unfortunately, with COVID, I was going to go this year, but I decided against it. But I have been paying attention to some of the prospects. I've been watching a lot of film, and so being a year-round NFL writer, I definitely pay close attention to the draft.
Anything that we should be looking forward to in a Senior Bowl? Obviously, the Panthers staff is involved in it. And anything you're going to be looking for specifically?
So the couple position groups that really stand out to me, the offensive line, there are some big dudes out there this year. I mean, we're talking a lot of 340, 350-pound interior offensive linemen. They're just
homeboy weighed in at 365.
There are some big boys
that
have been to the dinner table a time or two in this draft class, and so I think there's a lot of good tackles, there's a lot of good interior offensive linemen. This is the second year in a row there's been a lot of good tackles, and so I'm watching the line closely. And I'm also intrigued by the receiver class. It seems like every year lately, there's just a ton of different receivers that are pro-ready coming in. And there's some really good smaller school receivers that are at the Senior Bowl this week as well. And so I believe his last name is Eskridge from Western Michigan, is a guy that I really like that's got blazing speed. And he had a good day today. There's some good running backs too. So those are the position groups that I'm going to be watching. I'm looking at corners too, because from a Seahawk perspective, they only have one starting corner that's under contract right now, and calling him a starter is kind of just putting a label there. I don't know that he's necessarily been starter quality, but
we're in the same boat. We are in the same boat, man. The best we got is Rhule Douglas, and we picked him off the trash heap.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know that I would call this a great corner class, but I will say that if you're looking for the long-armed, big-bodied types, there are a lot of corners and safeties that could become converts that are at the Senior Bowl. I think I had 8 or 9 guys on my list that had 32-plus inch arms. That's something the Seahawks are always looking for. So Scott Fitterer, if he's carrying that tradition over to Carolina, he'll be enthralled by all those long-armed, tall corners and safeties and taking a close look at them this week.
All right, my boy Scott Mason from Play Like a Jet podcast said, you got to check out Corbin Smith. And he was right, man. You did not disappoint. Tell the C3 Panthers podcast listeners how they can find your work, Corbin.
So you can find me on Twitter at Corbin Smith NFL. I obviously do mostly Seahawks stuff, but I do a lot of draft talk, a lot of prospect profiles. So Panthers fans may have a lot of interest in that. I'm going to be starting those next week after the Senior Bowl gets over. And you can also find our podcast, Locked On Seahawks, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, all those major platforms.
All right, Corbin, man, you're the man. Thanks a lot for your time. And I would say best of luck to you, but really, you're not even our rival anymore. We're like,
I don't worry about the Panthers. Seahawks fans generally don't. And we're not playing you every single year now.
Like I know.
I do want to
feel like it for a moment.
Did you used to worry about us back like when Carolina was?
Honestly, I always looked forward to the Panthers Seahawks games because I'm an old school guy. I like defensive
battles
with running the football a bunch. I was a running back, so I love teams that want to run it up the gut and grind out the game. So, of course, the analytics people don't like me for that reason. But, I still think it has a lot more value than a lot of people are painting as far as, the value of the run game and at least having something that the other team has to respect aside from just your passing game. But, yeah.
All right. Thanks, Corbin, man. You have a good one. Guys, you heard it, is that Scott Fitterer's got a long-time history when it comes to being involved with the Seattle Seahawks, did 19 years with that organization. And now we get him and that experience, but also kind of that youthful vigor comes along with it. Now, we left off on the Senior Bowl, Cody, the Carolina Panthers. That's the big news right there. I guess if there is the most current news is today. And did they start weighing in yesterday? And then they started doing drills today. Is that what it went down?
They were doing some of the on-field stuff today, and then yesterday they did the official weigh-ins and measurements. And I mean, it's essentially a miniature version of the combine. Like they do the Underwear Olympics, kind of make you stand on the scale, do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's going on now, and our coaches are there, getting the first-hand look at a lot of these players.
Nice.
The story that was just posted like 8 minutes ago, Senior Bowl, a chance to evaluate but also develop by Darren Gant, is talking about Matt Rhule wanted an opportunity not to get a beat on these young players, but it's also an opportunity to develop these younger coaches. And there is already turnover. It's a constant turnover machine in the NFL. The one he highlights in this article is Cedric Whitaker. Whitaker is a number of young coaches on Rhule's staff who's playing a larger role this week at the Senior Bowl, according to Darren Gant. And they're trying to work on that infrastructure, as we've heard about Joe Brady being, a hot name. He did not get the job, but he has been interviewed a lot. And our quarterbacks coach is now LSU's offensive coordinator. I think another one of our offensive coaches, maybe like the offensive line coach, is now South Carolina's offensive coordinator. And the Panthers are going to have to continue to build and rebuild this coaching staff from within. So we have the Senior Bowl, as well as one of the new coaches is a guy by the name of Sean Ryan, correct, Cody?
Yes.
Tell us about Sean Ryan and this new, I guess, and what this little douse of gasoline on the fire is.
Yeah, well, so Sean Ryan has a history coaching both. So, and he started on the Houston Texans. Well, he didn't start there, but he was with Deshaun Watson from 2016 to 2018. In 2016, he was hired by the Houston Texans as a wide receiver coach. And the next year, he was promoted to quarterback coach for the Texans. He then spent 1 year as the quarterback coach for the Detroit Lions. So however much stock you want to put in to 2 years with Deshaun and 1 year with Matt Stafford, make of that what you will. Other than that, he's bumped around. He's had a few coaching jobs. He's been an offensive assistant for the New York Giants. He's been a wide receivers coach for him. He's bounced around a few different times, but he's been around, and honestly, he's just going to be an extension of what Joe Brady is doing anyway, because Joe Brady is our quarterback receivers guy. So he does come, highly touted. So I think he's going to be a good fit for us.
Any of your thoughts on the Senior Bowl?
I haven't looked into a ton of it yet. Probably when the game is getting ready to be played, I'll look at all the snaps and look at all the one-on-one matchups, and then I'll watch the game in and of itself. I haven't seen a ton yet. I do know a name that I keep on hearing and seeing about on Twitter is Jamie Newman. And Jamie Newman was the starting quarterback for Wake Forest in 2019. But then he was going to transfer to Georgia to be UGA's quarterback. And then he opted out the season, which I think was a real terrible decision for him to make. I mean, he's probably going to be a second or third round, maybe even later prospect. But he is at the Senior Bowl right now. And, man, he has all the talent that you're looking for. He has the arm talent, the mobility, the ability to go through progressions. Didn't throw an interception for the first few weeks of his 2019 career. So, we're looking at a bunch of different players right now, and it's a good opportunity for us.
Blake Bettis said in the chat, who are our assistant coach or our assistant head coach now? Who's our assistant head coach, and who are these new fits? Right now, if you pull it up on the Panthers website, looks. I mean, Chase. But the first of all, these pictures are wonderful. Oh my gosh, I love Ed Foley. Whoever this guy is, Ed Foley. I want to get to know you. Chase Blackburn, we know him. Joe Brady, we know him. Phil Snow, we know him. I'm trying to look at some of these other guys. What's up with this? Isn't Matt Lombardi? Isn't there also a guy that works for like PFF or
Mike Lombardi?
Oh, it's Mike Lombardi. Okay. Yeah. And here's the most recent news is that, and I gotta say, we hired Tony Sperano Jr. And I read the tweet like 9,000 times. I was like, we got little Tony Soprano. I read it 3 times and I was like, I know it's not so. So if you guys don't remember, Tony Sperano is he was a former head coach of the Dolphins. His dad passed away a few years ago. He was the guy that wore sunglasses. So on the sideline all the time in Miami, and I need somebody to put some sunglasses on old Tony Sperano Jr.'s picture right here. Okay, so that's basically the news, right? What other news is there? I mean, okay. Here, how about this, Greg? What do you think about Matt Stafford as a Carolina Panther? We got to trade 2,000 years of picks for him. No, you just got to trade this year's first, probably.
No way. Not for that age of a quarterback.
He's on mute. You on mute.
I just can't do it, man. I just don't think Matt Stafford has enough in the tank. You give me a young Matt Stafford, maybe 5-6 years ago, then yeah, I'm thinking that's a possibility, but not now. It's too late. I need a new young quarterback. I think if you've been in the league more than 5 years, I think it's too long for you. Got to be a franchise quarterback if you've been in the league, and you got to be in the league less than 5 years for me to really want you.
I mean, ideally, I'd want you to be younger than 20.
Well, yeah, ideally, but I'm saying if we're going to trade for somebody who is a franchise quarterback already, it's got to be somebody younger.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't really have a problem. My problem is just the cost of it. Is that ultimately is that he. Trying to look at his passing stats. I mean, he's thrown 32. He threw 41 touchdowns in 2011. That's pretty good.
I mean, I don't know. Does it not?
He's dealt with some injuries now. I'm not interested in this. Because I don't even care. It doesn't have anything to do with Stafford at this point. What it has to do with this is taking on a quarterback that could be a momentary, a 2-year great option in a way, right? I mean, it could work. But then you got Teddy's contract. Like, how can you really afford it? And then, I mean, I understand giving up draft capital and even taking money to the, having to swallow the contract of Teddy Bridgewater to a certain degree with the idea that you have this bright future ahead. I don't know if it feels very short-term thinkish though to be in the running for Matt Stafford for our team, for maybe the Bears, for the Washington football team, different scenario.
Yeah, and we're always under this illusion that the Panthers were just 1 or 2 players away from being a Super Bowl contender. Like, I mean, listen.
Feel like that though. We haven't felt like that.
If that's not, but I'm saying that's what the team builders inside the Panthers organization, Marty Herney for the past few years and a bunch of others, like we have gone about our free agency and our drafting like we're a team that's ready to win right now. And all of our salary cap numbers say that as well. Like that's why our numbers aren't so good right now, because the Panthers have put a lot of money into contracts on players that were supposed to be a part of a Super Bowl push for us, and they never panned out. And I want to kind of give you guys an idea of how I'm looking at the future for the Panthers, because I mentioned in our Twitter chat, like, we're really teetering the line of being in purgatory for a long time here. And I think one of the things that all of us Panther fans need to understand and realize is that no matter what our answer is, it's going to involve giving up something to move and get a quarterback. It doesn't matter if you're talking about going to get Matthew Stafford or Carson Wentz or Deshaun Watson, whatever, you're going to have to trade something away to some of these teams. If you don't want to go the free agency route, then you're going to have to move up in the draft. And I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek at the new Draft Tech mock draft we have coming out tomorrow. Because in our top 7 picks, 4 quarterbacks went before the Panthers even had a chance to draft. Lawrence went 1. This is up in the air. I mean, it's a mock draft. Fields ended up going 4. Wilson 6, Trey Lance 7. So whatever number it ends up being that those players go, there are now a bunch of teams ahead of us that also need to draft a quarterback. We know the Lions are going to draft a quarterback. Like, they're going to have to. So again, it's just a tough situation. I feel Philadelphia won't be in the market for a quarterback. I think they'll probably kick the tires on Carson Wentz a little bit longer. But I really just think that Panther fans as a whole need to understand that going forward, if we're going to fix our quarterback with either a premium free agent or a premium draft pick, we're going to have to give something away. You have to accept that reality now, because it's going to happen. If not, you're going to have to either settle for a quarterback that you're not in love with, like a Matt Jones, like a Kyle Trask, or you're just going to have to build your team the traditional way and run it back with Bridgewater. I mean, those are our options right now. We're in a very precarious position, and how our GM acts right now is going to define the next 5 years or more for us. I really believe that.
All right, go ahead, Greg.
Well, I have a question for you, Cody, and this is everything about this is hypothetical, okay? But just I just want to know what you would do in this situation. You're going to get one of these 2 things. You're either going to get Deshaun Watson, or you're going to get one of the top 4 top 3 minus Trevor Lawrence. You're not getting Trevor Lawrence; he's going first. Right. So Fields, Wilson, or what's the third guy? I can't even remember. Anyway, Lance. Yeah, okay. So you can either get Deshaun Watson or one of those 3 guys. You have to give the same exact thing to the other one. Which one are you taking? You taking one of the rookies? Or you taking Deshaun Watson?
Deshaun Watson, baby.
Deshaun, because Deshaun has proven to be elite level.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. I'm going Deshaun in the situation.
But by the way, I would, dude, any of those other 3 quarterbacks are younger, and also great prospects in and of themselves. So I'm happy with any of those guys.
So if Zach Wilson or one of these guys is available right before us at 8, and we call Houston and say, hey, we'll give you this pick and you can pick up this quarterback, give it to Deshaun Watson, you'd be cool with that?
But yeah, but Deshaun, okay. we're gonna know what happens with Deshaun.
He's going to be a Jet. He's going to be
I think you might be right. He might be a
Jet. I don't understand. Like, why not? I would prefer to go to the Dolphins.
Yeah, I don't understand why you'd prefer to go to the Jets. I mean, it's been known to be one of the most inept franchises to exist on the planet. Like, I mean, it's even when they were supposed to be. I don't think it's about him
choosing. I think the Jets just
have the best option.
I think it makes more sense for them instead of, kind of gambling on a quarterback again, right? Which they did on Darnold.
Well, he also
go out and get the guy. Is that there's less time for the Jets to be relevant again. Like, right. It accelerates the process so much.
Would you think that the Houston Texans would refuse to trade him to the Jets because that's where he wants to go, just out of spite?
I don't think he wants to go there. I think he would want to go to the Patriots.
No, all the reports are saying that he
wants to go to Jets.
Really?
It's New York, man. He's young. It's New York. Why not?
It's New York. It's the amount of draft picks that they have. It's the amount of
so much cooler in the 80s.
It's the amount of money that they're going to have. And Deshaun Watson really liked Robert Saleh. And the Texans didn't even interview him, even though they knew that Deshaun wanted them to. So I think that plays a part of it. Dude, Deshaun Watson is such a win-win situation right now because he's the only one that can waive that no trade clause. Like, he basically gets to say, I will waive my no trade clause for only certain teams, like only the ones that I'm wanting to go to. So, I mean, it's I
think is like 31 of them.
I don't know. I mean, I've heard that there's like a list, and one of those people that he would put on the, I've heard the Panthers are still on that list somewhere for him, and so
he really wants to go to a team that can't, that the Texans won't trade him to. The Colts. Boom.
That would be it. That would be if the Colts got him. That would be a dangerous team.
It's not going to happen because they're
not in their division. Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of actually when we were talking about Stafford. I think Stafford's landing spots. I think the Washington football team.
Yeah.
I think New England, man. I think the Patriots. He'd be fine on the Patriots.
Yeah.
Again, I don't even really have I don't have a problem with Stafford. It's just where we're at. It's not really an ideal situation.
No.
For us. All right.
Yeah.
Numbers 252-228-5098. Let's go ahead and jump in these catcalls.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
Hey guys, this is Tyler from Spruce Pine, aka the Country Panther.
What's up, Country Panther?
Anyway, I just
with that being said,
address Chuck from Elizabeth City's call last week. Just started listening to the podcast. I heard his first call talking about Jerry Richardson and how respectful, or maybe he didn't say respectful, but appreciative he was of Jerry Richardson. And I just want to throw this out there that my grandpa used to be a manager at Hardy, and I'm pretty sure that's how Jerry Richardson made his money. It might not have been the sole reason, but it was a
Hardy's was a part of it.
Why Jerry Richardson was able to buy the Carolina Panthers. But anyway, my grandpa said that they would have these conferences where he would go and Jerry Richardson would be there. And my grandpa loves the Panthers, but he doesn't hate anyone as much as he hates Jerry Richardson. He said that dude was the biggest asshole he's ever met in his entire life. And I just wanted to throw that out there. Jerry Richardson's an asshole. Coming from
he may also be your grandmother
underneath him. So
hey, your grandfather.
To you, Jerry Richardson, you're a fucking asshole.
Shout out to the Country Panther, man. I was listening to your podcast today, and I do think there's some prerequisites for the Country Panther podcast. Is that you gotta have a country accent, bro. His guest was more country than he is, and I gotta say, on top of that, Jerry Richardson being an asshole, he probably made a pass at your grandma, homie. That's probably why your grandpa don't like him.
He was a real baller like that. Like, hey, baby, jump up and down in them jeans.
All right, next call.
What's up, guys? Scott again, calling from Winston-Salem. Just had a question. I don't know if any of you guys have ever watched the movie Moneyball.
Yep.
The NFL is moving towards this analytics type of stuff, just like my phone does every day. It tells me what my analytics are on who I talk to, which is ridiculous. However, Moneyball is a true story about the California Athletics, and they used statistics and built a team based on statistics, not the first-round draft, second-round drafts, or even high draft choices. So why can't we do that with the football team the same way? I know that your thoughts are going to be different. You're probably going to say no way. But
nah, I think that's exactly what Tepper wants to do.
Matt Rhule's got an 8-year freaking contract. of ever how much money that is, can't even remember. Don't make a difference because
65, 80, somewhere in there.
Why not do just like the movie Moneyball, where they use stats, build a baseball team, and it worked, and they won the daggone World Series with it. So I don't understand all this.
They also traded away like the best players every year. Oakland.
It makes no sense. Half of the draft picks anyway, they're just based out of college. Every one of us knows that a college football team, you're playing against a bunch of kids. And yeah, if you have a star quarterback in college, it doesn't necessarily translate to him being a good quarterback in NFL. Look at Josh Rosen talking all that trash about people are going to be sad or upset that they didn't draft him. He's going to make a mockery. What does he do now? Practice squad, second string quarterback. So evidently the stats didn't help him to come out of college being a top prospect. So why not do something like Moneyball? I'd be all for it just to see 1 year. It seems like we're throwing away a year anyway if we're going to keep Teddy Bridgewater. What a piece of trash. So that's just my thought. It's probably not feasible in today's society. However, they were called the California Athletics anyway. They wasn't Oakland. But I don't know. It'd be nice to try.
I always called them the Oakland A's.
Talk to you later.
Didn't know. I mean, maybe it was, but I always thought they were the Oakland A's. Like, I thought that Moneyball was after like Mark McGuire. It was like his name was Billy Bean too. Billy Bean. You got Brandon Bean, Billy Bean.
You're thinking of Brandon Bean.
Yeah. Here is that football organizations have yearned to recreate that or to create that in the NFL. But baseball is such a game of ridiculous longevity statistics. You know what I'm saying? It's just like this, is that we're going to throw this pitch 9,000 times this year. So we'll be, the law of averages works better. It's like playing blackjack over 1,000,000 years rather than just 20 hands. The football team is a little more complicated, and where the number of reps and different things. Maybe it's not, I won't say complicated. That might not be the right word. Where you don't have the opportunity for those law of averages to play out as much, where there are the anomalies where we flip the head 6 times in a row, a little different. But I think this is from all the signs that we have seen. Cody, you highlighted this coming into the show, is that everything we've heard out of Tepper's mouth over the last 2 years, even going back to Rhule, is a more analytics-based model. My idea has been that, he wants to have a chart guy who is in charge of the front office. But one thing that I heard that Tepper outlined that I it made me feel good about this is we've wondered, is really Matt Rhule the guy? Because his contract is bigger than Fitterer's. His contract, you're right. Is he really the GM in all cases? And what I think Tepper, when he says a flat organization, is I think he wants a little bit more division of authority to take some responsibility off of people's plates. And therefore, is Rhule, you're a coach. We're going to give you a team. You get the most out of them. We're going to listen to you in building that team clearly. But your job is to take who we got and get the most out of them. Fitterer, your job is to get us the best ingredients. And instead of putting too much on this, is that, can Rhule balance all of those and juggle them? He can be the old ball coach here. I think that the Panthers are looking for, I don't know though. Cody, how do you balance the analytics in the NFL? Because it's not like, hey, we can throw really here is that a lot of baseball purists or, baseball fans, like we hate the shift. You know what I'm saying? It's like this. It's like, you assholes are not even going to cover third base because the analytics say 97% of the time I'm not going to hit it there. And you know what? They're right.
So, hey, real quick, 71 people watching, 52 likes. Hit the thumbs up. Over an hour and almost 20 minutes into the show, still got 73 people strong. I mentioned this earlier. I'm kind of hesitant with all the analytics, and I feel like our caller was too. I think it definitely helps you in regards to
he was saying let's go all in on the analytics.
So the Moneyball is the analytics idea. If you want to go Moneyball, it's all analytics.
Yeah, but my thing is this though. So if you look at that NFC Championship game, like I don't know what the analytics said, but choosing to, you know,
I can tell you what they said.
To not do what they told you to not do what Green Bay did.
I'll tell you. Hold on. Yeah, good. Finish, Cody.
No, but so that's my point. Did they say that Matt LaFleur did the right thing?
It was a 10%. If they would have gone for a touchdown on 4th down, it was a 10% chance they win the game. If they kicked the field goal, it was a 9.5% chance they win the game. That was the analytics on it.
And there's the other analytics that there have been 66 other instances I heard on the radio today of the exact same, like down 8 inside of whatever minutes in the playoffs, and 0 people made the decision that Matt LaFleur made.
Yeah,
like he made. I mean, really, is that here? Is that the idea? Is that
I wanted to say this about the analytics thing, though, because you have to understand that those numbers are going to fail you when you're not looking at the situation on the other side of the football field. Those numbers can't crunch highly specific data. So, for example, instead of, like, I'm just using this as an example, right? But let's say the analytics thought that the Packers did do the right thing. But then now you're basically saying that instead of trusting your MVP candidate quarterback to get a first down at least, now you're going to give the ball back to Tom Brady, the most storied quarterback in the history of the NFL, and all he has to do is get a first down.
Yeah.
Like,
No, the analytics did not say to do it. And here's the thing is analytics and gut and understanding can all coalesce. Right? Is that, man, really is that the analytics and your gut right there said don't do this. It's not like Green Bay had a defense that's like the 85 Bears. Right? There are times where you rebuff those types of moments, but it's a terrible example in some ways, just because it was the bad decision.
Yeah.
And you know what? And I was listening to Clay Travis, so I can't take this opinion, but he brought up a good point, is that Aaron Rodgers, who kind of said that was Matt LaFleur's doing, not mine, which is true. Like, he wasn't. But Aaron Rodgers also didn't scramble on 3rd down, where he could have made it a much easier 4th down conversion. His answer was, I thought we had 4 downs. Well, if you thought you had 4 downs, then you could get a little bit closer to the end zone, some different things like that. So I think, but when we're talking about analytics, I almost think that we're not using analytics to make every decision like a beacon, like we have no choice. Right? Like, well, the analytics say we got to go for it on 4th down, but as a guiding light. And hopefully we use that, like the caller is saying, in personnel, is to value positions, right? Analytics can tell us that running backs aren't as important as left tackles or vice versa. Right? They can be these guiding lights in how to build a team, maybe not how to make every decision.
Well, a key element, key thing in analytics I saw in the playoffs this year, the Tennessee and Indianapolis game. Tennessee, the analytics said for them to go for 2. Indianapolis, they didn't get it. The analytics said not to go for the field goal and to go for it on 4th down. They didn't get the 4th down. That's 4 points. They lost by 3.
Yeah.
So the analytics.
There's also another thing is sometimes you just got to look at your team and you say, all right, we only got so much time here. Right, like you said here. I mean, a good example of the Green Bay game is that even if you don't get it, they get the ball on the 2. Right. Instead of getting 3 and then giving a ball back and hoping you're going to get an onside, whatever you do next. The other example would be Tennessee, where it's 4th quarter or something like that. You have limited possessions left, and you got a 4th and 1. And you punt the ball, and you got Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta, and I think that the analytics are really kind of just saying this to me. This is why it's like this. It's like, look, you can play blackjack by the book. You can play poker straight to the book. And yes, over 1,000,000 years, you'll win more than you lose. But you won't win the most you could have won if you play with some feel in the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Where you read the situation, where you get a bead, where you know your opponent, where you know your own strengths, this and that. And so I think what we're seeing is that the NFL has been resisting being aggressive. And I think here, if you look at the Bills, I think when you play the Kansas City Chiefs, it's so clear what you got to do. And that is you got to score touchdowns. Field goals will not be enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't care what the right decision is that these guys can be down 35 and they're going to come back and make it a game. So every time you're in you see the end zone, I'm going for that bitch. Like, we got to get the most. And it's kind of like, hey, let's not always play the safest bet here. Let's play the multiplier on this bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of at the point where I don't know. I mean, are we talking Super Bowl? If we're talking Super Bowl, let's talk Super Bowl.
No, we're not talking about Super Bowl. Let's go to the next goal. How about that? We'll go to the next goal.
Yes, I love your podcast. I want to kind of talk about the Panthers, but I just want to talk about, PJ Walker. I want to talk about why people I want to ask what people think about him right now, because I like PJ Walker.
Here, every week we got to get a PJ Walker fan club member. Thanks for the call. PJ Walker is gonna not have an opportunity with anybody until he does. Next call.
Hey guys, this is Chuck calling from Elizabeth City.
Chuck?
Yeah, with the new GM hire, I really feel, just listening to his statement, it's kind of a damning statement for Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh yes, I want to talk about
definitely
this.
think we're going to move on. And with Tepper, really, I mean, he just comes right out there and says it.
Yeah, he does.
Himself. You've got to win, be more consistent in order to be starting quarterback. It's just between Rhule during the season, as the season progressed, kind of moving away from Teddy. The writing's on the wall. And regardless of this 1 year, if we've got to eat the $20 million, his salary, I know it's tough. I don't know if we can package him in some type of a trade deal, but I definitely think we have three options here. Number one, which would be the best way to go, would be probably to draft a young rookie quarterback. Unfortunately, I think where we're drafting, if we're not willing to trade up and kind of risk a little bit mortgage the future, and then we're also taking a chance getting a young quarterback that might not pan out. That's option number one. Option number two, which I think would give us the best stability, or the best looking quarterback we could get, would be Deshaun Watson. Unfortunately, that's really going to cost us a lot of capital between players and draft picks, and it could set us back. And it does have a high sticker price, but I really feel that, that would be a nice option. But number three is the option I feel that we could afford. Matt Stafford. I don't know what the going rate for Matt Stafford, if he'd even want to come here. I know
it's $35 million.
I still think the man's got, at least 3
plus
or 4 years left.
Draft picks.
That might be good enough to bridge to another quarterback. The one thing about Stafford, I'll say is this, he's always been a competitor. And somebody's made a point, I've been reading online in different places and podcasts where somebody says, he's never won a playoff game. But how many playoff games did Calvin Johnson win? None. How many did Barry Sanders, the great Barry Sanders, win in Detroit? One, maybe two. It's just not a great franchise when it comes to the playoffs. So I don't think you can lay all that at Stafford's feet, much more than the organization and the coaches they've had. But the one thing I'll say is Stafford, even if it costs us the 8th overall pick, Detroit could take the 7th and 8th pick and probably package up and get something with the Jets. They'd really be in line with number 2 because the Jets could trade down and get number 7.
All right, on Stafford, just so we can, I would say, put this to bed. First is, look, he's a former Georgia quarterback. My wife's family, but so no problems there. He counts $33 million against the salary cap this year, going into this season for the Detroit Lions, 26 next year. And to be honest, if we had nobody at quarterback right now, if we had PJ Walker and that was it, I really don't have a problem with that because his contract's going to go down 2023. He'll be 35 years old. He only counts $3 million against the cap, right? And you got him for 3 years. You could do something like that. You can maybe renegotiate it over 4. I don't have a problem with it. It's just imagine getting him and cutting Teddy, and basically you have $55 million in the quarterback position. And you had to give up draft picks.
I have a question.
And you had to give up draft picks.
I have a question then. If Detroit, in agreement with the trade, decided to eat the cap number that Stafford has in exchange for our first round pick, we get Stafford with no cap hit whatsoever. Would you trade this first round pick on number 8?
Then I'm open to the idea. I'd be open to the idea.
I'm not.
I'm still not either.
Not the best solution, but it's not the worst solution, dude.
Look, the
question
thing is,
marks about him though, or how he's gotten beat the fuck up.
Exactly. It's putting us in the same position where if you get Matt Stafford, you trade the 8th pick for Matt Stafford right now, you're going to be drafting between 8th and 15th for the next 4 years, however long you've got him. I'm not saying he's a terrible quarterback, but he's on the tail end of his career. And, the caller was talking about comparing him to Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson. Well, Matt Stafford was never the best guy at his position. Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders were. And you don't really compare. Right. I can't really hold a quarterback or a wide receiver or a running back the same standards I do a quarterback as far as carrying a team to the playoffs.
He's been pretty badass, though.
He's been great. He's been great, but he's on the tail end of that career. He's
never thrown over more than all right. His rookie year, he threw 20 interceptions.
But dude, this is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't
Other than that, he has never thrown over 19 interceptions.
It doesn't elevate talent around us.
Right.
It doesn't elevate the talent around us. Mm-hmm. And my thing is this:
yes, he does. He does way more. We would have won more games this year with him. Yes.
So he has a bigger, better arm than Teddy Bridgewater. But listen, for all the fans that kept on wanting us to be like, stop talking about Cam Newton. Stop talking about Cam Newton. Like, this is a lateral move. Like, we moved on from Cam Newton.
It's an upward move from Teddy.
It's a better move. We would have won more games.
Cam Newton.
Okay, well, that chip's gone, though.
No, but this is what I'm talking about.
He's comparing Stafford
to Cam Newton. I'm saying you're not going to tell me that we're going to move on from an older, injury-prone quarterback, then to go in and bring an even older, injury-prone quarterback. Like, this is dumb to me.
We might be wrong in saying he's injury. Well, he is injury-prone, like he's always hurt. But guess what? He started every game since 2011, except for 2019, where he missed half the season, and then he went on IR, and they just couldn't put him. He started 16 games this year, and this mug was getting
just like Phillip Rivers. The same quarterback.
Got no hand. Yeah,
I think he's better. I think the reality is, if you see some of the throws, here's the part. I'm in agreement with Cody. I don't think it's
all, man.
He's got, and you can argue this all day. He has got one of the best arms as far as arm talent in the NFL, and he has since he came into the league. As problem is that the inept Detroit Lions were only able to put one receiver in front of him that were able to actually keep a high level performance, and that was.
But they've never had a running game. They've always their problem has not even been their players, man. In some cases, it's just been ever since they got rid of that soft spoken. Who was that black coach they had? And he was so soft spoken, but they won. They went to the playoffs with him.
Jim Caldwell.
Yeah, Caldwell. They're just a disaster. It's kind of like the stench. And so you don't even know how much of that is Matt Stafford. I just don't think we're close enough. Yeah. I think, hey, all of a sudden you got a defense in Washington and you put them on there and all of a sudden it's worth it. Yeah. It's worth it to see what we can do here. The Panthers, by the time it became really helpful, it would be too late then.
Yeah, and so Panthers Buzz FSU 23 says, can't wait years and years to plan to win in the future. Win now, go all in. And the Panthers have had this mindset for years now, and it hasn't worked out for them.
No, we haven't.
Yes, we have, Tony. No. We have been doing this thing for years.
We only had that 1 year. It doesn't
matter. We have our team from free agency to the draft have been building this football team like we're about to go and win the Super Bowl. Like that is how we have tried to build this football team, and it hasn't worked. And what I'm saying is Matthew Stafford, not only does he have better options for him, but like what do Panther fans expect Matthew Stafford to come in and do for us? Like the
I think we could be a 12-4 team if we gave him a good squad.
I think you're dreaming.
Hell yeah, we could. Oh no. He made Golden Tate, Marvin Jones. These guys, they always put up offensive numbers, man.
They went to other teams, they put up offensive numbers, which shows you they're just good receivers. Like I said, I'm not trying to take away from Matt Stafford, but when you have
Golden
good
Tate
receivers,
didn't do shit. And Golden Tate hasn't done anything in New York. They have just been a disaster at the top. And I just don't think that means that Matt Stafford on a Indianapolis Colts team this year is better than Phillip Rivers was.
Yeah.
Matt Stafford on the Saints team right now, they might be going to the damn Super Bowl.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You got a lot of faith in Matt Stafford.
If you want,
I just think that he is far more competent than you. It's not like getting a guy who's just kind of good. Like this guy can straight ball if he's healthy. I know that's a question mark and all of this, but the problem is it's just a little too late. That's all I'm saying. It's a little too late for us.
Exactly.
Like I think y'all are hating on him a little bit too much.
No, it's not that I'm hating on him. Like I said, I don't think that he's better than Phillip Rivers. I think I'd like to compare stats and look at records. I definitely think he's better than Phillip Rivers. I think they're close to the same player, but I don't think he's better than. It's one of those things. I wouldn't have mind getting Phillip Rivers 5 years ago.
Who do you think he's comparable to, Cody? Because I'm gonna say, I think I can compare players. I'm gonna do Phillip Rivers.
You pull up Stafford. I'll pull up Rivers.
I think you can do on Pro Football Reference. Who would you rather have in free agency right now than Stafford?
Deshaun Watson.
I mean, he's 24.
Deshaun Watson. I mean, listen, I honestly don't. Like, I really don't. I mean, I'm thinking of it this way. Like, if we're looking at bringing in another player with a contract, to me, like it needs to be on the level of Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. If it's not that kind of quarterback that you're looking at getting, you should be aiming to move up in the draft to get a young player that you can build around. And I don't want to hear that it's too hard to do because it isn't.
Is Aaron Rodgers going to be a Packer?
He
may go somewhere else, but
also, can I just say this though? Earlier Greg was talking about, Aaron Rodgers, which I agree with you, by the way. Greg absolutely deserves his fair share of. Or no, you were talking about Brady.
Tom Brady,
yeah, you were talking about Tom Brady.
Oh, Rodgers deserves a share of the.
Yeah. Same thing with Rodgers. Like when you have to spread the blame around evenly. And I'm sorry, but when I say that Matthew Stafford has never won a playoff game in his entire career in the NFL, the Detroit Lions have been a bad team, but you also don't get to say that none of that is on him also, because I feel like I could put a few other quarterbacks on those teams that they've been on, and they've probably done a little better with him as opposed to Matthew Stafford.
He's had 2 winning records in his entire career.
Yeah,
2 seasons of winning records.
I'd be interested to see the way the defense plays. Because that's the reason they hired Matt Patricia, because they've really struggled to have a good defense. I don't think you guys have ever had a conversation about how great the defense was the Detroit Lions had. Do you guys ever remember that? No. I mean, that's the reality. You can't. Can you say that about Cam Newton's first 5 years in the league? Absolutely, you can. And guess what? He went to the Super Bowl. Like, you can do that. You can do all those things. Guess what? Kansas City, they have a decent defense, right? They have weapons. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there have been some videos of every throw that Pat Mahomes has made. Matt Stafford has made them 3 or 4 more times than he ever has. Like, the problem is that he's not on a winning football team. And so that we automatically have this mindset that he's not good. So here's what I would say. Guess who didn't make the playoff with one of the greatest coaching staffs in the league? And that is Cam Newton, right? You believe that he's still an elite quarterback in the NFL, I think. I think you all would. I personally don't. But guess what? He didn't have weapons around him. Like, the Detroit Lions have not given him, like, when's the last time you can sit there and say, he's had these.
Well, you could say that about Watson.
He had Megatron. He had Golden Tate.
Exactly. And guess what?
Well, first of all, Golden Tate is a
great wide receiver.
Look, I love Golden Tate personally. Like, I'm a big Golden Tate fan myself. But that's like saying Philly Brown is like the same as Ted Ginn Jr. Like, he is. These are B players that have had very impressive careers.
Can we talk about
He has had some offense, but they've never been able. They haven't had any running game. Oh my God, they cannot figure out the running game. They had the last 1,000-yard rusher they had was the dude that was a Saint that came from USC, the guy that dates the Kardashian or some shit. What's his name? He was
Reggie Bush.
Yeah, Reggie Bush was their last 1,000-yard rusher. And that was like 2010. Here, look, I don't think he's the greatest thing ever.
He's not.
Here, I bet you this is that if I had my choice between Matt Ryan and Matt Stafford, I'm taking Matt Stafford.
I'm taking Stafford over Ryan.
Between Alex Smith 3 or 4 years ago and Matt Stafford today, I'm taking Matt Stafford.
And you want to bring up him having Megatron. What did he do when he had Megatron? They broke records as a receiver and quarterback duo.
Touchdowns that year.
Two winning seasons in his career. One of them was
I mean, if you
the winning season with Megatron was 10.
That's like.
And do this. Look at the Lions roster right now, minus the quarterback position, and look at the Panthers roster right now, minus the quarterback position. How much better or worse is that Lions?
Way better than the Panthers. I mean, way better. The Panthers are way better than them outside of the quarterback.
Oh, we're way better than them.
Yes.
They're picking 1 pick ahead of us.
I'm talking about
they pick number 7.
I think that shows how fucked up they are. Because the problem is the Lions have had over the last 2 years with Patricia, they've what we thought gave them talent. And that's not on him. That's like saying this is, you know what? We could say the same shit about the damn Texans. And you would say this is that motherfucker. Look, Watson's over there balling ass shit. And these motherfuckers can't get nothing done. You know why? Because it's a dumpster fire around him.
Yeah, but I'm just saying Teddy Bridgewater was on a team with a better record than the Lions, dude. I'm just saying, look, Matthew Stafford, I don't think does as much.
You're making
the argument for us. You're making the argument is when you don't have when you have a roster, a mediocre quarterback can look okay at times. When you don't have a roster, a good quarterback can look like he's the reason that they're losing.
So how long until we're
and I have not even been in love with Stafford his whole career.
No,
I have not. I have not been gushing over this dude. I'm just saying this is that like I would rather have him than a lot of cats.
No, I know what you're saying.
I agree with you. Yeah.
If we went and got Matthew Stafford, how long until this Panthers team is a legitimate contender with Matthew Stafford?
And for how long?
True.
Well,
yeah.
that's the thing. That's why I have said I don't think he's a good fit for us. That's why I don't think he's a good fit for us. Like, just like I don't really think us, unless I would love it. Like, I mean, I would love to have Aaron Rodgers come play for us for a year, but I still don't even think that would be the right fit for us. Because I don't care who you like. You could give I don't think we're like the Bucks, where we are just missing the quarterback. I think we're missing the quarterback. Yes. But I think that even he can't overcome some of those other things.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that who was it that made the nemesis? Watson had a worse record this year than the Detroit Lions, and they didn't make the playoffs either. Because guess what? He had a worse record than the Panthers, and he is an elite quarterback that you want. But guess what? They couldn't do anything because they don't have a roster. The argument you want to make about Matthew Stafford this year is irrelevant if you're thinking that Watson is going to come in here and fix everything too.
The only thing about Watson though is that
he's younger and a better quarterback.
You don't have to do if you don't do it in 3 years, it can't be done.
Yeah.
Like we're to the point. It's with Stafford that it's this is that if he goes to a team, like he needs to go to San Francisco, homie.
And he's not, true, very true. He needs to go to the Colts. He needs to go to the 49ers. Yeah. He's not going to be worth the money that we would have to pay to get him. And it's not like Deshaun Watson, who you can make the argument that even Deshaun Watson isn't even in his prime yet for as good as he is. Whereas we're wondering how many good years Matthew Stafford has left. Yeah. I don't want.
We're trying to get young in Carolina. We are trying to get young, and it's
that's what we've been trying to do for over 2 years now. From our front office,
I agree. That's why we don't think it's the right move.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that if he goes to the Patriots, the 49ers, or even Houston for that matter, wherever he goes, do you think he elevates that team, Matt Stafford?
As is,
I don't think he's the reason any of those teams win, other than maybe New England. If he goes to the 49ers, he's not the reason they win, I don't think.
Do you believe that Ryan Tannehill
I actually think he elevates the 49ers more than he does the Patriots?
I agree.
And the reason that is the 49ers seem to be closer every time. The Patriots are an enigma, guys. Like, we cannot evaluate the Patriots, and that's why I don't even want to say anything about Cam. First of all, they had no offense last year with Tom Brady. Zero. People were saying Tom Brady was done, right? And so and then on top of that, they had the most COVID opt-outs at any team, and they were all on defense. So they had a shit defense and bums and a Cam who was not the Cam he used to be. I mean, I think Cam did an admirable job. The only problem is his passing stats are still lackluster. It's the same Cam, It's like
honestly, it's
for 19,
problematic. Like even
20 yards.
I mean, no, like Cam Newton, like early, like at the first 5 years of his career, would have 300-yard games all the time. Like, I mean, it felt like he was heaving the ball down the field. Right. And I get that he didn't have the weapons, but he had Damiere Byrd, who is a threat down the field. We all know that he's got the speed, and he still wasn't getting the ball down the field as easily as he would.
I think he looked better this year than he has when in the last 2 years in Carolina.
His arm was not a problem, like everyone.
I disagree.
It wasn't the problem. It wasn't the problem, but it's
a problem.
It's still a question.
His arm is not a problem.
I'm telling you, Cody, if that was the case, they would have thrown the ball deep. If
that was they had no.
They didn't have an offensive line.
They didn't have the offensive line to throw the ball deep. They couldn't throw the ball deep if they wanted to.
Oh, how about this bullshit? I want to tell you guys this. I was watching, and this isn't on their podcast. This isn't their fault. I was watching the Panther Nation podcast, and homie was pulling up the stats for like wideouts, and DJ Moore was the 24th rated wide receiver by Pro Football Focus.
Okay.
Right, which I don't even understand how that's the case. But Robbie Anderson's not in the top 25, obviously, if DJ's 24. Guess who number 25 was?
Curtis Samuel.
Jacoby Myers.
Whoa.
I was like, what the hell, man? If you're looking at DJ Moore season and Jacoby Meyer with Cam, I didn't even. That's why people at PFF sometimes, man, they get lost in the weeds.
Yeah, they really do. But I mean,
Right,
yeah, do the next call.
Next call.
Hey, Tony. Hey, Cody. Hey, CK.
What's
Hey,
up,
guys.
Chuck?
Chuck calling from Elizabeth City. I just kind of want to get you guys' opinion. What you guys think of Scott Fitterer's press conference?
Oh, I'm going to play the
Takeaways,
clip for you,
anything
Cody.
positive that you heard, anything negative. I hear a lot of people talking about he looked nervous, he looked sweaty, looked out of his element, and I'm not worried about that. I'm sure it's kind of hard to do a press conference when you got a cameraman and one other person in the room, and you're talking to an empty room. It might have, believe it or not, it might have been a lot easier if he had a group of people there, much like Rhule had last year.
I think he looked
hired.
goofy,
It's
if
just a little
anything.
bit different. Yeah, I'm sure it's kind of awkward. But I'm not too worried about him being nervous because I think when the cameras are
Also,
off
the
and he
whole
gets in that
Panthers
draft
staff
room
looks
and
goofy.
negotiations and he's picking his players and looking towards his scouts and seeing what we should do, move up and down, or who we should take and what this team needs. I think he's going to be right at home. I think we've got a winner here. I think him and Rhule will work well together. Just kind of curious to see what you guys thought by listening to him talk, good things you heard from him, and maybe some things you got some concerns with. I definitely think he laid it out on the line without really bringing up a player. He kind of really put it out there about a quarterback winning in the fourth quarter, and I think that's a damning thing I said once again on Bridgewater. I think what we really need to do, other than getting a quarterback, we've got to get this line built, and we've also got to get our secondary in order. It's going to require some draft picks, guys. If we get a quarterback, we're not going to have as many draft picks. So I do see him trading back. So don't be surprised to see some guys taken in the draft we might not have heard of or guys we don't know a lot about, but he's done his homework on. And I don't think we're as far off as we think. I do definitely think we need the quarterback position to evolve and be better than what we've had it. And I think that's been the biggest glaring weakness that we had this year. It just, the play was going downhill after every week. But I'm interested to hear you guys take on Fitterer. Thanks.
All right. So I think that when you watch the press conference, which I did, I watched it live, and I thought there was nothing to it. And that's not a negative necessarily assessment of him. Right? Is that was there this first, he was such a nice dude. Like, it was so nice. Like, he was just so, he's like, I want to thank my sister. I want to thank my catechism teacher. I want to thank, right. Like, he was just like, so, and so I want to thank Tepper. I want to thank, he's a nice dude. Right. The other thing is I think all these mugs look goofy. Every single one of these guys is a goofball, right? And they always pick the goofiest dudes to run the whole crap. I mean, our head coach, look at him. Actually, he looks so tired in his interviews. He did not look excited ultimately about this pick, I didn't think. Our owner is goofy as shit, right? They look goofy. And how do you be a billionaire and the only laptop camera you got, the only camera you got is the one that's on your laptop, like looking up into your nose? Come on. Y'all expect more out of us. And you let all of the media just get away with all this crap. Buy a damn $45 mic, folks. But I thought, look, his press conference really didn't say anything. And in some ways, I'm kind of okay with that. Right? Do I want what the Detroit Lions got with their head coach interview? Nope. Did you guys see that guy? Did you guys see the head coach interview for the Detroit Lions where he said, I want to build a team where we get punched in the face, we smile at you. When we get punched in the face, we bite your kneecap off.
Yeah, and he's a savage. He's the defensive line. It was the defensive line coach from the Saints, right?
Right. And it was like he's like studied under Greg Williams. You'll like this, Greg. My wife went out of town for girls' weekend this past weekend, and I sat around and played internet poker and just watched movies. I played internet poker on this screen and watched movies, whatever free movie popped up that was in my fancy.
Mm-hmm.
I went and watched Venom. And I got to say that as someone who is not a giant comic book person, it's one of my favorite comic book movies. Venom was great. And at the end of Venom, right? I don't know if you guys are in. I know this is reaching back because this movie was like from 2010 or 2012 or something.
You're talking about the Ed Hardy one?
Yeah.
I think it was only like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, that was recent. That
wasn't that long ago.
Is it Ed? But there's only one, right?
Yeah, there's only one pure Venom movie. Yeah, it's the one with Ed Hardy. Yeah,
that one is. Maybe it was 2016. Maybe it was 2016. Something like that. So at the end, he's in he is in this gas station with this like Vietnamese woman who's been getting pressured by this guy to pay out like protection money, and they showed it at the beginning of the movie, and now at the end, and now it's about Venom and the guy becoming like one being. They're kind of becoming the anti-hero or whatever the term is.
Yeah, that's the right name to be. Yeah.
So he like switches into Venom and he grabs this bad dude and he goes, if you don't get the fuck out of here or whatever, I'm going to bite off your arms and I'm going to bite off your legs. And then I'm going to bite off your head and you're going to be a lifeless turd floating in the wind. That was the same speech that the Detroit Lions head coach gave at his press conference. So do I want my coach to do that? Do I want my GM to be, was he less charismatic? I don't really give a shit about that. If anything, my criticism isn't about him. It's about the Charlotte media. And the Charlotte media ask the weakest ass questions. And I'm sorry, folks. I hate to be calling y'all brothers out. I hate to call somebody out. But a guy comes up onto the stage and he says, I'm not going to talk about people. I'm not going to talk about specific players. And the question you go with is, I won't name a specific name, but a quarterback in Houston. What do you think about it? Right? He gave you an opening. He said this interview was tough. David Tepper came at me and asked me about analytics. He asked me about the cap. He pushed me to places that I was uncomfortable. And the first question they got is, what do you think about Deshaun Watson? Why not? What kind of analytics are the focal point here? Yeah. What question, is like, let's drill down into the openings you gave us. So I don't think he gave us much, but I tell you, I know one person that's excited about him, and it's Cody Lashney. And the reason he's excited about him is because he said this.
All right, let's go to Brett Jensen, WBT.
Thanks, guys. 2 quick questions, one for Scott and one for Dave. Scott, first with you. What is your definition of a franchise quarterback? What does that look like to you?
Do you have the video?
They can lift the players around them. Someone that gives you an opportunity to win when the game's on the line, fourth quarter. Someone that just has the leadership qualities that when they walk in the building, they know that's the person in charge. And those are the most important things. Then you get into the position specifics, the processing, the decision making, the intelligence, the arm strength, the accuracy. But really, when it comes down to it, it's the leadership and being able to compete and win when the game's on.
Oh, I forgot. You guys can also share videos easier in this new platform.
Oh, nice.
Don't forget that.
It's just gonna start sharing.
Yeah, Cody. Hey, this double whatever. He likes big butts. He cannot lie. This podcast. All right.
Look at the stepmom video.
He wants to be aggressive though. And I think that, like Chuck from Elizabeth City was saying, is that there have been, I wouldn't even call them hidden comments anymore. I think the organization from top to bottom is just saying what we all saw.
Yeah.
David Tepper has said you can't get to the promised land without a quarterback. He came out and said that in a year where we're all like, Teddy Bridgewater ain't the dude. Of course he knows what they're talking about. Matt Rhule talked about he didn't play his best football and he wants, he needs to play better. And then Scott Fitterer, his first day on the job, says this. I believe that it all starts and stops with the quarterback. And then they asked him about what he thinks are elite talents. And he listed out all these talents that are antithetical to Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, man, I honestly believe that this Panthers organization, they keep their ear to the ground. I mean, listen, we're all on Twitter. Panthers Twitter is a vibrant place to be. Lots of personalities, lots of strong opinions. And Panthers Twitter is involved in a lot of this back and forth in this discourse. So I find it really hard to believe that the people in high up positions in this organization, they know what the fans think. They knew what the fans think when we were calling for Ron Rivera to be fired, when we were calling for Marty Herney to be fired. Like, I do feel like they keep their ear to the ground. And I don't think it's a coincidence that all of the things that Panther fans are screaming at the top of their lungs about our quarterback and about Teddy Bridgewater, they are speaking to those things directly. So they're playing businessmen by not, shitting on Teddy Bridgewater and dumping on him.
I think they are shitting on him.
But they're doing it indirectly. They're doing it without directly saying, yeah, Teddy really underperformed this year, and we're definitely going to be looking to move on from him. Like, we know that they're not going to do that, but the next best thing is to say, well, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, all the things that you're saying, we hear you, we understand it, we see that there is a problem on this football team. And I'll pass the mic with this. Again, I maintain that we were in 8 football games where Teddy Bridgewater had the ball in his hand with an opportunity to go down and either tie the ball game or win the football game. And he choked every single time. Every single time. So it's very important that we nail this quarterback thing and nail it right. And when you hear our brand new GM say something like that, it has to give you a breath of fresh air a little bit.
I don't know, guys, if I can really remember a time with a football team that they were so blatant in their assessment without just, it's clear to me is I feel like they have been less politically guarded on this than normal. And I think that this is the kind of thing, is that we come out and we say something like, oh, Teddy Bridgewater can't do this. He can't get you to the top. And then you'll get the kind of the guy that's like the Bill Voth, the let's talk down to you from our high horse and be like, oh, you're just a fan and you're being so emotional. There's so many complications. I feel like you got that kind of guy in the middle trying to defend Teddy Bridgewater. And then on the top, David Tepper is pissing on their heads saying, nope. I don't think there has been any suggestion from this Carolina Panthers team that Teddy Bridgewater could be the guy to go forward.
Absolutely. There has been no committal, a lot of times if there is a belief that this guy is the answer and that maybe he just had a bad season,
right.
You would have heard Teddy is the guy. He is the guy moving forward. But no, what did they say at the end of the season? We're going to keep all options on the table.
The only I agree with you, CK. The only thing is when you're dealing with liars, it's not always the case because that was the same way with Cam. Remember, they were all about Cam being the quarterback, and then this.
I don't think they were. I think they were. I think that's what we're upset about Cam is they were saying Cam is the guy.
That's what I'm saying.
They didn't believe that. In this case, they're like, we don't even think he's the dude. They're pissing on Teddy's head and telling him it's raining.
Yeah.
All right, next.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
My
Podcast brothers, how y'all doing?
What's up, G. Cavassier?
Hey, man, you seen the internet. You've been watching TV. Now all of a sudden, people are saying that we should take Matthew Stafford from Detroit. I'm at a point right now, gentlemen, that I just want to win. You know, first it was Trevor Lawrence. Then it was the dude from Ohio State. I like Zach Wilson personally, you know. Then it's, you know, Matt Jones. And then Deshaun Watson. It's like every single week is something different. Don't be surprised if you don't see Panther fans saying we should try to go get Aaron Rodgers since he said he doesn't know about his future in Green Bay. It's not going to happen. But just watch. I mean, this is getting out of control. Matthew Stafford, I mean, he's a good quarterback. You know what I'm saying? And his contract is kind of friendly, too, if you like really look at it. But I'm just at a point now, I just want to win. Anything better than Teddy, man. Any veteran should be better than the damn Teddy Bridgewater, personally. Because people talk about, you know, Matthew Stafford's age. But look, Tom Brady's 43 years old. He's going to the Super Bowl. And fuck Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. The defense carried that motherfucker. We all know this shit.
Putting that in there.
Got bailed out by the damn refs. Got bailed out once again. So give me your thoughts on Matthew Stafford. And always remember, y'all, keep having.
You know, Tom Brady, this will be his 10th Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah, you know the quarterback with the next most amount of appearances?
I do.
5.
And that's John Elway, homie.
Yeah, that's insane, man.
Like, I mean, this guy, you know, when we make that statement that this dude has forgotten more shit than you'll ever know.
Yeah, no, that's
this guy. Tom Brady has lost more Super Bowls than you will ever be in, and he's won more Super Bowls than you will ever win.
Right.
Here's the funny thing, and here's what I'll say about this. I mean, everybody I mean, their defense is good. Don't get me wrong, but this is essentially the exact same team it was last year with Jameis Winston at the helm that didn't do it. They brought Tom Brady.
Defense has not been great.
But that's not
good, and I would say their defense has underperformed this season
compared to last year.
I think they've been the best when they play their best football. I think they've had the best defense in the NFL this year.
Yeah,
I thought they're the top 2 defense this year.
I don't think they're the most consistent.
They let me down, bro. Their defense. I thought they were going to be.
Yeah, but how many times did you lose money on Tampa Bay?
You know what? I stopped fucking with them, man. I actually, you know what? I said this on the radio this past week. We do our picks every week, which I won the picks this year for the first time. I had a good football year outside of Carolina. I won the Keeper Fantasy Football League, which I have not been in the playoffs, but like one time, and now I'm in the playoffs and win it. And I would like to say this is we in our keeper league, we get to keep a player. The maximum you can keep them is for 4 years. Like after that, you can't keep the player anymore. But we have a salary cap for the keepers. So really, if you keep a first rounder, that's all you can keep. Right. So you're really behooved to pick. You're trying to get young players on the back end that you can keep for cheap. I picked Alvin Kamara in his rookie season in the 14th round, an unknown player from Tennessee.
Nice.
And he had this balling ass season. I've kept him for pennies on the dollar. Is like, and this year is my final year I could keep him. In his final year in the final game, yes, he won it by himself. He scored 6 touchdowns. Like it was like he's going into my fantasy football Hall of Fame, Alvin Kamara. But going back to is that I said on the radio is that I'm picking Green Bay to win this game, not because I necessarily believe they're the better team at this moment, but because I was burned by Tampa Bay so much early in the season. You know, like they let me down so much earlier when their offense wasn't clicking and their defense was okay. Their defense actually tailed off as their offense started to uptick, and now it's all coming together.
Well, 2 things I wanted to mention to piggyback on what CK said. Yes, that is true. And I definitely listen. I have more respect for Tom Brady after this year than I have ever had for him in any other year playing. I definitely do. And I even said this Look, man, I'm consistent. I said this before the season. The fact that Tom Brady, who has been critiqued on arm talent, right? I think I've even been one of those people. Tony, I know I've heard you talk about him throwing dimes to Randy Moss and airing it out. Like, whatever. My thing is this: the fact that Tom Brady decided to go to Tampa Bay, where Bruce Arians has an offense that's predicated on throwing the football down the field. And then, like CK said, man, we are keenly aware of the NFC South, okay? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been a non-factor forever. The Panthers and the Falcons have been a more dominant team over the past 5 years than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But here comes Tom Brady. But more importantly, here comes Tom Brady playing playoff football in January.
Until he wasn't.
When no one is. But even in that last game, there was a one of those passes was right off the hands of Mike Evans.
Yeah,
right into the hands of the defender. Like that could have been enough to maybe ice the game at that point.
He also had two dropped interceptions too.
Oh, okay. I'm not listening. What I'm saying is Tom Brady, for a guy who has all the accolades, has come in and proven himself to be every bit of the GOAT. I will say,
yes, it's very simple. Like it's not even you can't even argue it, dude. He's got 10 Super Bowl.
10 Super Bowl appearances. He's going for his 7th ring. It's insane. But I did want to give credit where credit was due to the other players that they did bring on that team. Tristan Wirfs there, I think, is a right tackle or a left tackle. Dude, that guy is a motherfucker. He's better than almost every guy on our offensive line not named Taylor Moton. And it was his first year. It is his first year in the NFL. They've drafted Devin White. They've drafted that safety that they have playing this year that's playing really well. Winfield. They have drafted well, and they have put talent and players and pieces around their quarterbacks. Like, even though it's a 1-year thing so far, they have done everything correct in their drafts the past few years and hitting on some defensive players. So, I like it.
All right, so mad shout out to Derek Avery Pets for the super chat, $3. We appreciate it. Kevin says he was averaging 4 of 6 of his wins. What I feel like is that there's been a lot of quarterbacks who've been great and then never look, is Drew Brees quitting with 1?
Yeah,
1 ring.
Manning only had 2, which I know 2 is great, but Rodgers may never win another one.
Right? And and I know, and I'm not. He has been, and it's almost not even just his play; it's more of his winning DNA. And the problem that with Tom Brady is, and to highlight Connie's comment, is she said, "F Tom Brady." We lost to him in the Super Bowl. Yeah, we did. He's actually become more dislikable as he's gotten older to me.
Yeah.
Like as an individual, like he looks weird. He always looks like he's doing the Blue Steel look to me from Zoolander.
See, that's so funny because I feel the exact opposite.
Really? He has been a dickhead. He's like a dickhead. He went from
on social media, he's an asshole. He's a troll.
And to his own players, he'll be like, "Fuck you guys! You dropped the ball, and you did this," and then he makes a mistake. Blue Steel. He has become less less charismatic.
This past week, we had 2 of the most arrogant quarterbacks to ever play the game in the same game in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady with the Bucks. Like if you saw those guys, every time they made a mistake, they were looking at somebody else like, "Oh, why did you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that." Like trying to coach it instead of just being like, I didn't see a single one of them like, "My bad."
Imagine if those bitches were black. Imagine what the fallout would be. Look, Cam Newton be like this. My bad. That's on me. And they're like, you selfish motherfucker.
He's beating his chest. Look at him. He's beating his chest after he threw it, an interception.
Oh my God. I know. I become is just Tom Brady is a look, I hate the 04. I hate that. That was one of the best Super Bowl games though.
It was so great.
Such a good game.
By the way, did you guys see Michael Thomas trolling Drew Brees?
No.
Bro. During that
Mike
Packers,
Thomas is a crybaby. Darnell Holmes said he's a bitch, but yeah. What'd he say?
He was basically, there was a deep pass, and I can't remember who did it, but he was basically tweeting out, amazing what can happen when you have a quarterback that can both throw the ball beyond 15 yards.
Well, we wouldn't know, so
yeah.
Don't come here. All right, next call.
How many calls do we have left?
What it do, fellas? It's your boy Mike, aka Supreme Leader. Hope you guys are doing well, and everybody out there in Panther Nation. Boy, so looking back at last season, Washington really fucked us, or did we fuck ourselves?
Yeah, man.
We could be picking possibly as high as number 3 or 4?
3.
Yeah, we've been 3.
Now we're stuck behind everybody who's going to want to take a quarterback.
Yep.
And it's looking pretty bleak. Kind of makes me want to give up, the whole war for Deshaun Watson. But
I agree.
I don't think we have enough draft capital to do it with all the other teams that's going to be vying for him. So. And Stafford, I don't want Stafford. I don't want a Stafford infection. Really
I laughed
for one of those young quarterbacks in the top 4. The NFL's evolving now to what was a pocket passer quarterback to now a athletic and mobile type quarterback, and I would sure like one of those in the draft.
Well,
Trey
too
Lance
late.
Could fall. Seems like
Maybe.
a reach. If there are other players on the board, but I just feel like we got to trade up if we want that quarterback. And,
I feel like it's out of reach.
Yeah, or we could try to build off PJ.
No. All right. Thanks, Supreme Leader, for your call. The number's 252-228-5098. Smash the thumbs up button. You see everybody's Twitter handle on the screen right now. Go ahead, give us a follow, subscribe. I see these other Panther podcasts. They're getting up in the thousands and thousands of YouTuber subscribers. Homies, smash the thumbs up button. Subscribe to this game with us. We just be chatting about it. Cody, I'm to the point right now when it comes to the draft and this and that. You had me. You were like, oh, this is where we need to go. We need to be aggressive. Be aggressive. That's what our GM is ready. But I really don't feel about. I'm not interested in trading up for anybody that isn't Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson right now. I'm at the point. This is all right. If I'm actually more excited if Trey Lance falls to us than if Justin Fields does. Is that messed up?
No. As a matter of fact, Daniel Jeremiah put out his top 50 prospects literally just before we went live, and he has Justin Fields at 12 and Trey Lance at 11 on his big board. So, no, I think I've said some things to you about Justin, about how I think he might have an injury concern at the next level. I don't know if his body's going to be able to hold up too well to it. And Trey Lance, man, dude, in that good season that he had at North Dakota State, he didn't throw a single interception. Mm-hmm. Didn't throw a single interception, and he was throwing the football down the field with touch. Okay, he would put his shoulder down and run you over and fight for more yardage. He can throw on the run. As of right now, if there was a dream scenario, then sitting where we are, that's probably it. Being able to sit at 8 and let Trey Lance fall to us and hopefully draft him or Justin Fields, either or. But I think we're going to have to trade up. I think it's inevitable, and I think everyone.
Or we're not in the running this year. And it's next year. Our answers are coming next year, not this year. You guys got to stick around. We got 3 more calls, and Greg's going to hit us with Panthers trivia to end the show. So you better stick around and show your Panthers knowledge. Go ahead, smash the thumbs up, subscribe. Here's our next call.
Hey, this is Kevin from Charleston.
What's
my
up,
question
Kev?
is, if we lose Curtis Samuel to free agency,
Which we will.
do you think we should draft a player to replace him, maybe in like the mid round, or sign somebody in free agency? You know, who would you sign basically to replace him?
Jamison Crowder.
I'm kind of hoping, even though I know there's no way it's going to happen, but I want AJ Green. Just not on because what I think he can do.
He's
or
a
what
shell,
done,
bro.
or anything like that. The only reason I wanted to sign him is because he played high school football in Somerville, which is not very, very close to Charleston. It'd be cool to see him play for the Panthers.
Not very close or very close?
What do you do to replace Curtis?
I think you meant to say not far and changed it halfway through.
No AJ Green anymore, bro. He would have been great.
Same way as Matt Stafford 5 years ago. Give him to me, but right now, no.
When I hear this question, I still get depressed that we weren't able to do what I wanted us to do if I was the GM. And what I said on this show during the season, I wanted to trade Curtis Samuel because as of right now, it goes down to this. I would love Curtis Samuel to be on this team next year, but I don't want to pay DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel. And right now, with the kind of money that we have, if you're asking me, okay, if you're only going to pay one receiver, who are you choosing to pay? DJ Moore or Curtis Samuel?
Or who's more replaceable? Who's like, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to attack it.
Yeah, I think we could have gotten a second round pick out of Curtis Samuel if you sent him to the right place. I mean, if you sent him to a Green Bay and they had someone else to take the top off other than Devontae Adams, like that could have been what the doctor ordered for them. And if that was the case, then we would have had.
If you would have traded Steve Smith to the Colts in 2009.
Yeah, I mean, and then we might have had a second round. We might have had another second round pick to replace that receiver with. And then you could have taken like a Kadarius Toney out of Florida, who is another very fast, very shifty guy. Also at the Senior Bowl that the Panther coaches are taking a first-hand look at. So yeah, man, that's what I'm saying. It requires some cunning to be able to know when to make moves early, because we could have gotten something for Curtis. I'll make a bet with you right now. Curtis Samuel leaves in free agency. Just as simple as that.
I think that's best for everybody, and you might see him in Jacksonville with old Urban Meyer.
Yeah,
Trevor is me being okay with us parting ways with Curtis Samuel is not a referendum on him. It's just ultimately money and needs. Money and needs, and I'm telling you this: is you could either keep Robbie Anderson or Curtis Samuel. You go, oh well, then let's have a discussion. Let's talk about how awesome and dynamic and multiple Curtis Samuel is. And then you say, well, guess what? Curtis Samuel's going to want more money.
Yeah, I'm not into paying.
It's just like he's going to have to get paid.
He's going to want more money than Robbie Anderson?
I think that Curtis Samuel is sort of like Mike Davis. And what I mean by that is this might be their only time that they sign the contract, like the best contract they could possibly sign. It's not going to break the bank. It's not going to be like, oh, Curtis Samuel reset the market. But $1.5 million, $2 million, $3 million is a big deal when it's a one-time thing.
Yeah.
And Mike Davis is like this, is like, hey, I'm gonna go here for $800 more grand because it's the only chance I got to get $800 more grand.
Hey,
and I don't blame him one bit.
thinking about this. I had a brain fart. I forgot. Go ahead.
All right, next call. Last two.
What's going on, C3 Nation? It's your boy Jay Anderson hitting y'all up. I know y'all probably already crushed this old Matt Stafford, as I call him, Pat Stafford. They always patting the stats to me.
Oh, I like that. I like
a lot
that.
of Panther fans need to kill that whole noise about Matt Stafford coming to the Carolinas. We don't even need to get him. The man has not won no playoff games. He can't get it done. I don't want him here. And it'll be just stupid just to trade. It'd be stupid just to trade for me. You're already 32, 33. You about to be almost out the door. We could have kept Cam for that. We need to go ahead and either we trade for Deshaun Watson or we go ahead and get a quarterback, pick a quarterback in the draft. Hopefully Trey Lance lands or Justin Fields lands. But we don't need to get no Matt Stafford, man. And everybody want to cake up. I'm tired of these people, making excuses for Matt Stafford and not getting on them, but they do everything they can. Do everything they can to get on Cam Newton. I'm like, Matt Stafford has a lot of weapons that Cam ever had in his whole career. So don't give me that crap. He could have won that playoff game against Dallas. So I think Matt Stafford is basically a Phillip Rivers Jr. He's not that good. He's not. I give him credit. He's good. He's not that dude. So everybody needs to kill that whole.
I like this call.
Bring Matt Stafford here. Bring Pat Stafford here. No, you don't need to come here. Right,
dude, we're tanking this year. You know what? I bet
you we're tanking this year. I hate hearing you.
No, we fake tank this year. We tried to tank and didn't do a good job. You know what? I feel like our organization learned from their mistakes this year. And
they're gonna fail all the way.
Dude, all right.
You know what? They're gonna push
Teddy every fucking game.
This offseason, I'm telling you, this is not a losing season coming up. Just, in my opinion, what I mean by that, it might be just based on our record, but I'm telling you, these guys are going to make a move for a quarterback because guess what? This might be our last year with Joe Brady.
Yeah, I mean,
tell him, Greg. He definitely deserves it.
Who gives a shit? Yeah. That's what Greg's about to say. All right,
I'm just saying.
You're not wrong. You're definitely not
very on top for Joe Brady.
I just wanted to talk about, there's a lot of
resume,
speculation in Panthers' name, comes up a couple of times. Most recently with Matthew Stafford, possibly, being a trade asset. And, honestly, I don't think I would want to give up too much for Matthew Stafford. Maybe like a third, maybe another player. Hopefully, they don't get too desperate and try to, give the bank up for him, unlike, what we're willing to give away for Deshaun Watson. But the one thing I see is this is going to be an insane offseason, as far as quarterbacks go. With all the quarterbacks that are coming in through the draft and then all the quarterbacks that, might be looking for a new team, whether it be Deshaun Watson, Matthew Stafford, or Aaron Rodgers. I think there's really no excuse for us to start off week one with Teddy Bridgewater, unless you talk about the contract and everything. But, hopefully we can get something done quarterbacks-wise because if we start off the season with Teddy Bridgewater, I think it might really be testing me as a fan. And, I'll always be a Panthers fan, but I don't know how many games I'll watch with Teddy Bridgewater.
I hear you, man. Thanks for the call, Jedi George. All right, Cody, you got to run, even though we can blast you with some trivia.
Yeah, I'm going to lose that shit anyway.
Well, I've only got 3 questions. We're going to do it every week, so we'll keep score.
Okay.
On, 3 questions a week.
Go, Greg, go.
We're doing 3 questions. Okay. Number 1, when was Charlotte awarded an NFL team?
93. Got
it. What date was it awarded? Sorry, I should have said what date was they awarded.
Oh,
give me a month.
June.
January.
August.
Okay, none of y'all are right. So I'll give Cody for 93. It was October 93.
There we go.
All right. Second one. So I got Cody that point. Who was the Carolina Panthers' first draft pick, and what number was he drafted?
Is this expansion draft?
This is just
Dude, it was somebody like Steve Berline or Kerry Collins.
It was Kerry Collins.
Kerry Collins is later.
No, it was Kerry Collins. He was our first draft pick. Yep. All right. Third one real quick since got to go. Okay, I name this player. I stepped in front of Bubby Brister's shovel pass and took it for 36 yards for my only career touchdown and sealed the Panthers' first victory.
Oh,
I went way back in history for the first week.
Oh no, I don't know.
God.
In. No.
I
don't know.
I can't remember.
Hold on. Let's go to the chat. Let's see real quick. Chat. Does anybody in the chat got it? Who? Say the question one more time.
I said, name the players. I stepped in front of Bubby Brister's shovel pass and took it 36 yards for my only career touchdown and sealed the Panthers' first win.
Their first
ever win. Yep.
This was at Clemson.
95.
I went way back for the first week.
Yeah. Kevin says Rocket.
No,
he had Rocket. Sam
Mills.
No, is it?
Sam Mills is the answer. Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Robert A is the star. All right, Cody, tell them how they can follow you. If you got to ice up, hit us up real quick. I know you gotta go.
Yeah, you can find all my work on drafttech.com. Tomorrow there's a brand new mock draft for first and second round picks. Your boy just picked up right in the first round pick too, so I'm gonna be doing that for a while. It's easier for me to write about Trevor, so they awarded me that. Follow me on Twitter at Cody Lack, CODYLAC. It's right on the screen right there. And I'll leave you with my ice up pick. I'm icing up an Irish midget accused of posing as a leprechaun to extort sex from 26 women in exchange for a pot of gold. That is a real news story.
Wow.
I don't blame the guy, honestly.
I feel like, who you icing up here?
I'm icing up. I'm icing up all anyone who didn't have sex with this guy for a pot of gold. Like, come on, what are you doing with your life?
All right.
Yeah, right. So
go follow him, Cody. I know you got to run. We'll see you later, brother.
Peace and love, boys.
All right, this is the time of the podcast where we get to talk about shit really quickly, which will take us an hour, about things that are barely related to football. He brought this up. Is the first thing? What's the first thing you think of when I say Irish midget? Irish dwarf? Would that be
Conor
McGregor? Conor McGregor. You got anything? Nothing comes to mind. You're not even a Lucky Charms guy, Code Dizzle? You didn't like cereal?
I was going to go easy answer there and say leprechauns, but I mean, other than that.
My number one answer is Leprechaun the movie, bro.
Oh, yeah, that dude's tough. I don't care.
It's got Kevin Bacon in it. Kevin Bacon, Jennifer Aniston.
I don't care that dude was supposed to be a horror thing. That dude was funny as shit.
Yes, it's like a comedy horror. It's amazing. I love Leprechaun. It's one of my top. You learn a lot of cinematography techniques in that, like the horror tilt. Like whenever we want to make a hallway look scary, let's tilt the camera. All right. The other thing is, okay, for my ice up pick, and folks who are new to the C3 Panthers podcast, the ice up segment is our homage to Steve Smith, where we tell somebody ice up, toughen up to get it together. Everybody is fair game. Last week, I think I iced myself up. I've iced up 12-year-old kids in Oklahoma that I've never met. This week, and you know what? This week, I am going to be icing up something that is, let me see if I can get the screen right. Let me see if I can get my new screen share. Good Lord. Sorry, I'm starting to get this new tech getting ready. is I've iced these people up before, but again, I gotta ice up PETA.
Oh,
right
God.
now, I saw this story and I don't know anything about it. You can tell me that I'm a jerk. You can tell me that's fine. You go ahead and tell me a jerk. People tell me, my wife tells me that all the time. But I saw this headline today. Target joins Costco in dropping coconut milk brand over forced monkey labor allegations. And here's what it says.
Oh, God.
By dropping Choco, Target has joined thousands of stores that refuse to profit from chain monkeys' misery. PETA exposés have confirmed that Thai coconut producers are exploiting monkeys and lying about it.
Oh.
These people are getting monkeys to pick up coconuts and are not paying them. They're not giving them Social Security. They're not giving these. Yes, they are actually.
How are they going to feed their families?
I got to say this is that if you can figure out how to get a fucking monkey to pick up a coconut and bring it to you, do it. And if you can sell that coconut, I'm still trying to get my fucking dog to go from over here to me without being a dick.
Right.
And he looked at me. He's like, I know you want me to come over there. I know what that means, but I ain't going to do it because I'm an asshole. So you know what? Is I say this, is that's not exploitation. That's innovation. That's not exploitation. Did you go out into the prairie lands and say, you assholes plowing up this prairie with these ox? I drove past the place the other day and this little kid was riding a horse. She was riding a horse and it's called Harmony Kids Riding Lessons or some shit. It's right down the road from me. They're charging money to ride this horse.
How much that horse
slave labor. No, man. Damn. I mean, I get you. Like, let's take up a cause. I'm all about taking up causes. Let's take up a cause. But I am tired. I'm so tired of the world where we're like this. I saw somebody told me this once. They were like, if I wouldn't pull over to help a human that was like struggling, but if a dog was on the side of the road, I would like, come on, man. Like, there's people like, let those monkeys grab those coconuts.
Ooh, I don't want to get that in a soundbite. It's like
pig is let them PETA. You know, the other times I've iced up PETA though this is fun. Is one time this like head lady for PETA, she wrote into her will as a protest that she wanted to be barbecued after she was dead as a statement. And the other thing that she wanted was that there's a big deal that could like supposedly kill elephants, and they take their feet and they use the skin on the feet to make umbrellas. I heard this like 20 years ago. I've never seen an elephant foot umbrella. I've never seen one, but maybe they exist. And she wanted her feet or her body stretched into an umbrella. And I'm like, you're the dumbest. Like, sorry.
Wow.
Let those monkeys pick up those coconuts. Anybody else got an ice up, Pooh?
I got one.
Good.
And this is not to talk about anybody who may be watching the stream if they're a fan and they made this comment on Cody's post, but so many times, especially with the Michael Jordan, LeBron argument, all that stuff, everybody wants to kind of make a note of, basically, I'll put it in context. Cody put out a tweet that Tom Brady was the GOAT, period. There is no doubt he went to the worst team in the NFC South and they went to the Super Bowl this year. There were some movement. Like I said, I know that he wasn't perfect, but the proof is in the pudding. Dude took the team to the greatest common denominator here was Tom Brady as opposed to Jameis Winston. That is the greatest common denominator, right? Well, somebody wanted to make the argument, you can't call him the GOAT because if Dan Marino were in this league with as offensive friendly as it is, he would be the GOAT.
That's not fair.
The problem is that argument doesn't. Yes, I think we can all agree that the offensive quarterbacks are protected more than they were when Dan Marino was a quarterback in the NFL. The problem is our defenses are way more athletic than they ever were when Dan Marino was a quarterback. So to say that, you're saying that anybody that you think is good now, I mean, you got to look at it. Everybody that's a quarterback in the world right now has the exact same benefit that you're saying Tom Brady has. But Tom Brady's the only one that's done what he's done. Nobody else has done it. Like, if you're thinking that that's the reason that he's successful, that's just not a fair equation. So anybody who tries to use the argument of, if this player played today, then he would be absolutely the GOAT. Ice up. It's not a valid argument, and it's one that I understand why you'd make it, because it's biased. It's easy to try to do that because you hate Tom Brady. It was just the same way everybody wanted to use certain stats to damn Cam Newton when he was here. I mean, reality is you don't like him, you're going to make excuses as to why he's not the GOAT. Evidence points to it being the GOAT. Anybody who tries to say otherwise, I have to say it, guys. Ice up.
Ifs and buts.
Yep.
If my aunt had nuts, she'd be my uncle.
Yeah, got it.
Cody Lashley likes to say. What's your ice up for us, Greg?
Mine's simple, man. Somebody I've already ice up before. I'm gonna do ice up the NFL again. Y'all know I have an ongoing theory that the NFL's a TV show, so they're gonna do what they want to do to get the best ratings. And Peyton Manning going out on the Super Bowl the way he did in Carolina. There was some crazy stuff about that game last year. I feel like they did everything they could to get Green Bay and Kansas City in the Super Bowl. They can't control everything. This year, I think the story was written for Kansas City and New England to go to the Super Bowl. And I think that no matter what happened in that Green Bay game, they're going to do everything they can to make sure it doesn't happen. And I'm talking all the way down to refs not making calls, ref making phantom calls, even coaches making calls like LaFleur did going for the field goal. I think all of this is tied in. I was talking with a guy today that I guarantee I could theorize that when players like Rodgers and Brady come in the league, they get called to the office and they're told, look, you either have the choice of making a whole bunch of money for your career and never winning championships, or you can win a bunch of championships and not make as much money, but like wrestling. But this is the part we need you to play, so go play this part and don't tell anybody. Just like wrestling, and it almost feels like it could be that sometimes with the way things go with the NFL. It's so blatant, so obvious sometimes where you can see refs calling things different ways. And like I said, it looks like sometimes games are thrown by more than just refs, players, coaches, everything else. So to the NFL, if you're doing that, which I doubt you are, but it's a good ice up pick. Ice up.
Nah, I mean, there's some questions about it. Robert A says, bring out the tinfoil hat.
Tony highlighted it right in the middle.
That's a good comment. Good comment. All right, I want to last kind of segment is what are you guys doing? What are you listening to? What are you watching? Kind of thing. Cody, I know you're streaming like a mug. I guess have you watched TV in the last 10 years, for the last like 2 years now?
Me?
Just stream.
Oh, me? Honestly, I haven't watched much.
Because you're busy gaming all the time. You're like, my family's going to bed. Game.
Yeah, stream, 100%, man. I mean, it's catching a little traction. I'm gonna keep doing it, but
grind it, man.
Into it. But no, I watched the WandaVision. I'm just, I had this instant gratification now because of everything streaming. You want to have the whole season. I have no idea where they're going with it, and it's just
that's how I feel. It's like I gave it a The other thing about the WandaVision, dude, is because they came out with 2 episodes right away.
Yeah,
I watched it with my kids because they were my girls. My wife, like I said, my wife was out of town this past weekend. My girls, they're gonna sleep in the bed. All the kids are gonna pile in, that type of thing. And the girls were like, they were down with it. They were like, and I was like, I felt like I was watching an I Love Lucy episode.
Yeah.
And right when I felt like I knew people were gonna be like, this is slow. And I was like, and my girls were like, all right, we'll do this. They were into it. And then we had to wait. You know what I'm saying? Like, I felt like they didn't time their release right. Like, I needed a little bit more. Like, we don't barely even know they're super. I don't even know if there are fairies or superheroes. Who knows?
Well, you got to keep watching on. That's why they bring you back.
I'm ready. It's
now
just like
7 weeks with
episodes at. I know.
Every Friday.
All right, what are you watching or listening to then?
Gosh, recently
everything.
No, me and my wife started watching the 100. Never watched it before. Just a show we saw on TV. It's not bad.
It's good in the beginning.
Yeah, I'm about 2.5 seasons into it. It's starting to kind of get.
And then it's like, oh, this is the CW.
Yeah,
that's what you go. Is that? Oh, it's the CW.
Yeah, that started watching Batwoman the other day. It's 2 episodes in. It's pretty good. I'm enjoying it so far.
After the first couple of episodes, I was just like, it was like they're really forcing forcing this forcing this down your throat to make it like feel like it didn't feel like it was natural. It felt like it was just really forced, at least the first couple of episodes. I still want to give it a shot, but I'm not quite into it.
You talking about Batwoman?
Yeah.
You watching the first season or the second season?
First season.
Okay, I never ever actually watched the first season, so I just started watching the second season to cover it. But I'm gonna watch the first season. Yeah,
but I'm gonna watch it backwards.
I'm gonna go back and watch it. Yeah, but I
you ever listen to Cheech and Chong tape? They were like, I listen to Black Sabbath backwards. 78 speed.
Oh, you know what I was watching is it was the Night Stalker docuseries on Netflix.
Oh, I watched that. Wait, which one is that? Which guy is that? Night Stalker.
I'm pretty sure Night Stalker. He was in California, in Los Angeles, and it starts out talking about how Los Angeles was great, and and now there's this mischievous underworld there and stuff. So
I think I watched part of that. The other thing, I watched this movie that was it was pretty good. It's called Alone, and it's on Hulu. Like you can find it there, and it's about this girl that just gets kidnapped, and then she's like trying to fight this dude off. It was pretty good. I've watched The Wildlings or something like that about the girls on the island. It was all right. But here is, I put out a tweet yesterday just because I don't have any great podcasts that I've just been cheesing through, right away. Like I like to go binge something every now and then I won't, you don't. So I put out a tweet and said, looking for, drop podcast suggestions.
Yeah, I saw the one that was.
First, I got a bunch of responses, and I'm really disappointed in this. Is that I got responses from people who make podcasts, not from people who listen to podcasts.
Yeah, it's like throwing food into a koi pond, man.
Yes, yeah. I didn't know that people just sit around and search podcasts on Twitter and then are like, "Oh, check out my." And look, I'm not gonna shit on anybody for self promotion because I've said like, smash, subscribe a billion times.
It's a little different.
Yeah, but so I got all these suggestions, and as everybody's like, look at my podcast, listen to my podcast. Hey, check out this. You're interested in entrepreneurship? Check my podcast. Like, nah, don't worry. You check my podcast out. You've noticed we ain't made no fucking money. We ain't interested in no entrepreneurship. We interested in debt. No. So I would you would just look at the tweets and they would like these channels would hit me up and they'd be like, here's our 7 podcasts. And you kind of just click on one of the names. It's anything. So many true crime, so much true crime, so much. So, I listened to 3 podcasts. One was Country Carolina Podcast, which I've listened to before. He called in tonight. And if you're interested in Carolina Panther stuff, which I'm not, I mean, I am interested in Carolina, but I don't want to listen to a Panthers podcast because that's all we do. Like, I want to listen to like something about food.
I don't even listen to this shit.
Yeah. I don't even listen to my own podcast. Second is I listened to this other one. It was terrible. Like, it was fucking awful. And I was like, all right, moving on. And then I listened to this shit, and I listened to the whole motherfucker. And it was called Plot What Plot Podcast. And number 1, Greg, you might be interested in this. They're into fandom stuff, whatever the fuck that is, which just means being a fan. I guess that's what we are, except for their podcast that I listened to today. They read fan fiction erotica.
Okay.
About Chef Boyardee fucking Captain America. And like they found this book on this website.
Wow.
And I gotta say this, dude, is number one, if you have a British accent, you have an advantage in the podcast world. You assholes just sound entertaining by yourselves. This one girl's name is Crumpet. How your name be Crumpet? That's a real name. Alice Crumpet is her name. But this shit was fucking hilarious, dude. Oh my God. It was uncomfortable. I've told you guys about a podcast before. It was my dad wrote a sex novel or something like that. It's another English podcast. They love this, but it was like, it was so great. And listen to this poor girl. She was in tears. She was in fucking tears reading this shit. It was so funny. So funny, bro. Oh my gosh. I am a fan. They only have 5 episodes. I've already started tweeting with them. They're probably like, damn, this dude listens to my podcast and all he does is tweet me. It was fucking awful and hilarious and wonderful. Oh my gosh. So that's what I'm listening to right now.
Check
It's
it
my
out.
new shit. Plot. What plot? Let's talk about Chef Boyardee plowing Captain America. and it's so so they just found this blog that like does fan fiction, you know, like or whatever. I don't know. I didn't realize there's all this shit. I was like, I don't even know what fandom is. I thought it was like fan dominatrix the way they were reading this shit.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, you know, so you're just reading somebody's blog that wrote this crap, and the lines are so cheesy and wonderful. It was like this. It was like, yeah, it was like, oh my gosh, you gotta listen to it. It's so wonderful. This,
yeah, send me a link, man. I'll have to check it out.
She said, what did she say? Is no, she did. The guy that wrote it was like, you know, there's nothing more American than Italian food. I want that Italian sausage. So it was like, it was just like the worst writing and the best writing all at the same time. Oh my!
Or it's so stupid, it's stupid funny type deal.
Yeah. Dizzle said his computer shut. All right, we're done anyway.
Yeah.
All right, that's it, Greg. You gonna do any podcasts this week?
Yeah. Well, I did one last night, DC Alliance podcast, which I'm part of. And then we got Super Discussions I record on Thursdays, and Super Civil Servants will be live Fridays. If anybody's interested, we're come check us out live Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. I do Super Civil Servants, where we discuss everything that there is in film, books, and the industry. And we're going to be covering the Monster series pretty soon with Godzilla vs. King Kong coming out in February. We're going to cover the 2014 Godzilla movie, the Kong movie, and then the other third Godzilla movie that came out leading up to this. So if you're into those monster movies, come check it out. We'll be covering those on top of a whole bunch of other things at the BatDaddy52 on Twitter. And yeah, I'll be podcasting a lot. I always am.
All right, dude. The name of the podcast I was listening to is Plot. What Plot? Hey. Plot, what plot? We're just worried about Chef Boyardee plowing Captain America. It was so gross and all. I was in tears, man. I was
want to go listen to that.
It's so stupid. All right, my name's Tony Dunn. This is C3 Panthers podcast, live Tuesday nights. Thanks to Corbin Smith tonight. You can follow me on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. The number's 252-228-5098. Code Dizzle is back real quick. Where are they going to find your streams? And we're out of here.
You can find me on Facebook Gaming and Codizzle Allen, and my TikTok. Go check out my TikTok. I had a funny ass one that I just put up. I'll let you. Give me a second.
Everything on TikTok is true. That's what my kid thinks. All right, we'll see you guys next week, and watch out for Chef Boyardee. That's all I gotta say is grease their fingers. All right, we'll see you, fellas.